Oh, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Bottom of the Bill. We got our boy Tim Hall on today. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Man.
Thanks for coming over to Riverside. You still live over at the beach, or where do you live?
I actually live in Lakewood, which is just south of San Marco.
Oh, so this is a hop, skip, and jump.
Yeah, I had to stop by the club real quick and grab something. But
That
yeah,
makes sense.
it
You're close to
wasn't that
Jackrabbits,
far.
yeah.
Before we get started, do our obligatory
yeah.
cheers.
Yeah, man.
Please drinking water.
I respect the maker's mark. I've just taken some pharmaceuticals, so I'm kind of nervous about drinking any alcohol right now.
I understand, yeah, for sure.
Sounds like could be a great time.
Yeah, if it was, yeah, no, I agree.
If it was the fun stuff, yeah.
It's all legal and all prescribed, unfortunately.
I'm teasing.
Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Spliffs downtown, Wicked Barley Brewery over in Mandarin, the Brews over in Riverside, Harleston Scotch, Sidecar over in San Marco, and Captain Jack's Smokehouse in Fernandina. And we're working on a new sponsor as well, so by the time this comes out, we'll probably have that locked in place.
Dope.
So I'll just go ahead and give me a shout out anyways. Blue Jay Listening Room.
Oh, right.
And make sure you're supporting all these places, because I know they're all going through it right now, and whatever we can do to keep this community alive and all the bars and restaurants going.
Do you guys eat burgers?
I don't eat beef anymore, but
He's vegetarian now. Yeah, I eat burgers.
Have you had the Spliffs burger? Is it as amazing as everyone keeps telling me?
Split? No, I didn't even know they had a burger.
Yeah, they have a new
I always
burger.
have
I had the vegan burger the other day, and it was
Nobody
amazing.
cares.
All right.
The goat boy though. The goat boy sounds good, and it's pronounced vegan.
Okay, nobody calls it.
It's vegan. Do you eat
All right.
vegetables or vegetables?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's that's for later. I think.
Yeah, that's how you piss off a vegan real quick.
Unpopular
It's actually
opinion.
pronounced vegan.
That's a good unpopular opinion.
That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking. I'm like, there's the unpopular opinion.
I've been saying that for years because I used
Right
to date
on.
a vegan.
Also, if you have any questions, suggestions, or unpopular opinions yourselves, you can send it to bottomofthebill@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it on the show. And then we have some shows to mention. We have our set at Monster Mash on October 31st, a festival. I think we're playing somewhere like at 7 or 8 o'clock at night yet. I don't think the schedule has been released, but I think they're working on that. And then we have
Where is that?
It's in Hastings.
And it's just like a field or a camping area?
They
It
had a
used to- 'cause I
festival
saw
there.
something about it.
They
Do you
did the
remember the name of the old
Backwoods
festival?
Backwoods
There you
Fam
go, yeah.
Jam they
Okay,
did down there
I
a few
remember
years
that.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. You coming?
No, but
I
I
got one-
remember that.
I got one ticket left. I'm trying to
I'm
sell
not
it.
going out there.
All
It's on
right.
that
Okay.
Philly, though.
All right.
And then we are playing at 1904 on November 21st, and that is we're making some changes as far as that goes, so stay tuned for that. And then that's really all I got in the books. You got anything coming up, Bill?
Yeah, Greenhouse Lounge is playing October 30th at 1904, and that's going to be a banger. The tickets are going fast. It's half capacity, so I think we've sold more than half of the tickets at least. So
Nice.
buy your ticket now.
And that's probably the only 2020 show for Greenhouse Lounge, right?
Yeah, for right now, that's everything that's on the books.
There
so.
you go. Tim's got it.
I would say
if you want to see him in 2020, that's it.
if you're gonna go to a show, go to that one.
Right.
You need to, and then also Side Hustle too.
Yeah, also just that.
Yeah,
band,
the
too.
other band that I meant.
We're about to release a record. No big deal.
Okay.
Anyways. You got anything you want to promote, Tim?
No.
No. These bands can promote them fucking themselves.
Jackrabbits is open every weekend. I honestly, I don't, off the top of my head, like we were talking about Big Titty Goth Girls right before we went live, and they sold it out last Saturday, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's real, it's difficult to think, okay, what shows do I have coming up? Because a lot of these bands are new to me. I
Yeah.
mean, even though they're not new necessarily to the scene, we just, for the most part, we book national acts and then we fill in slots with locals as openers or as headliners. But it's just when the touring industry is alive and going, we don't usually have enough time to do, like, very rarely we'll have a Friday, Saturday in a row that we have a full local show on both nights.
Right.
It's just too many touring acts, and it's probably only going to get 10 times worse whenever they can actually, like we're talking about, where, the pandemic's over, quote unquote, or whatever, so that people can tour again. I mean, I'm holding a ridiculous amount of holds on dates in late 2021 to 2022, where
Really?
it's like
Wait, that
8
far
holds.
out? 2 years from now? Jesus.
Every agent's like
8
you
holds
know,
a night.
Yeah, 8 holds on one night. In other
Jesus
words,
Christ.
there's just eight different bands that want to come into that night, and it's kind of like, it just sucks because I look at it sometimes, and it was like that at the beginning of 2021 in February or March when things started postponing. We'd postpone them to January or at the end of this year, and all those shows that we postponed till are being postponed again now, and
Good
it's
Lord.
like it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, I was about to
without
say.
any, I mean, like I said, I'm it's what I've done all my life, so it's kind of like I don't see myself doing anything else. But as far as I just sit there and go, how many times are we going to reschedule this show?
Yeah, I
mean,
can't even imagine, man. I do want to get into some of that in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you how you got started being in the promoting side of things. Were you a fan first, and then kind of?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, actually, I was in the military and stationed with the Marine Corps in Camp Pendleton, but I was in the Navy, and anyways, but basically, I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, which is North San Diego, and I was big into photography and everything. So there was a fanzine called Absolute Reality Magazine, which was a fanzine for a band called The Alarm. Probably never heard of them.
No, I used to listen to them all
Okay,
the time.
cool.
growing up.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
Ah.
So I got hired on to take pictures for them, and they weren't only, even though it was a fanzine, it was called Absolute Reality, which is the name of an Alarm song, but they shot other shows and stuff like that, or did stories about other shows like U2 and Bauhaus and all these different bands at the time. But basically, it hired me to take pictures, which I wasn't that great. It was a hobby. I wasn't a professional photographer. I was still in the military doing this, photography stuff on the side. And they sent me out to shoot different bands, and there was this local band that they sent me out to shoot called The Silent Treatment out of San Diego, and I got to be friends with those guys. And then this was like in 1988, and I was just getting out of the military and living up in Dana Point, just renting a room up there. And those guys go, yeah, man, why don't you be our manager, this kind of thing. And I'm just like, okay, sure.
Wow.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, right.
Because you guys are a local band, and I'm not a manager. You know what I mean? It's
You're a
like,
photographer.
right.
And they
Anyways,
hired you as a manager.
but
Right.
they didn't hire me, and there was no pay involved.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what but
You know
they
what
did
I
let me
meant.
live at the band house, which was the big deal. There was a room. I had a room on this loft, and then it went out into the loft, and it was a great place to do shows too, because you had this big loft, and the band would play down, like literally down the living room, and everyone could be piled up
Oh,
on the
that's
stairs
sick.
of the loft. It was awesome.
That sounds like like a Doors movie.
It was a trip, man. And then the bass player lived on the other side of the loft area. Like he had a room there. I had a room over here, and then downstairs was the big living room, and then underneath the loft was the kitchen, and then Dave's parents, I think, the guitar player, rest in peace, Dave. He died a few years ago, but his parents owned the house, I think, is how it became a band house. Like they
Okay.
moved out of it, and he was able to rent it from them, and then we all paid him rent, obviously. But it was a 4-bedroom in Mira Mesa, California. Anyways, I moved in there and started booking them shows, around town and stuff. And as I was booking them, you get to know other bands just by booking your friends' bands. And that kind of snowballed. And I met, we booked a lot of shows with Bad Radio at the time, which is Eddie Vedder's band before Pearl Jam, before he moved to Seattle. Anyways, so we did shows a lot together with those guys, and another band called Baba Yaga, which is Gregory Page. He's great. He's one of the people, when people go, who do you think should have made it that didn't? Gregory Page has made it because he makes his living at it. So it depends on what make it is.
Sure,
but
yeah.
the thing is, if you would have said Eddie and Gregory at the same time, which would be bigger, I could have easily said Gregory Page would be bigger than Eddie Vedder. I don't know. I mean, it's
Wow.
like they were both really great, and Gregory just didn't never get the breaks, I think, is what it boils down to.
Yeah. It's especially at that time, man, it's such a hard, I talk all the time about us being lucky as musicians nowadays to kind of have all these things at our fingertips, because our destiny is so much more in our own control at this point. Not to say there's not other gatekeepers that can kind of say one way or the other what happens to you, but like there's definitely through social media, and you have your own press kits now, and you have access to publicists and marketing firms and things, ways to get yourself heard without having to go through record labels for everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the entire music business is a very niche business now. As far as you can go out and sell 500 to 1,000 tickets in every single market in the country, just about. But as far as like if Joe Blow that works in the law firm down the street, they've never even heard your name. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's different than it was obviously in the 80s or I wasn't doing it in the 70s, but basically it started changing with people, everybody getting online, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when everything started changing.
That was something I was kind of interested in. I actually have that question written down here later, but since we're talking about it, what have you noticed? Have you noticed a change in the industry, at least in your occupation as a promoter? Have you noticed a change from like the 80s, 90s into today with technology and social media? How has your job changed, basically?
Yeah, I mean, even when we first relocated, my wife and I, to Jacksonville. She's from Jacksonville. My dad's military, so I moved all over the place.
Gotcha.
My entire life. So I don't have a place I'm from. Sometimes I say Gitmo because it was one of my favorite places I ever lived.
Oh, shit.
But anyways, when we moved here to Jacksonville, it was 97, I think. And we still owned our club out in San Diego, and I literally would go every quarter. I'd spend a month out there with one of my partners out there, and then I would be 3 months out here in Jacksonville because I was still booking the club out in San Diego, and it's kind of hard to not be in the market and book it from that far away.
Totally, yeah.
And knowing what's next, who's coming up.
Especially at that time.
Right,
Yeah.
the vibe and stuff. But what was the question? I went off on a tangent.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay. Just how your job has changed, like the roles you've had to play or things you don't have to do as much of now, given the social media and the technology that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I was saying about when we moved here, it was still really print-based. When we, in 1999 when Jackrabbits opened, like for the longest time, we were probably, I'm pretty sure we were the longest running or the second longest running advertiser in the folio.
Really?
In other words, we had every single week we had an ad going for Jackrabbits, for stuff outside Jackrabbits, like when we did Fat Cat and all these other places that we did shows at.
That must have really ate into your overhead.
Well, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, that's how you advertised. You had to advertise in print, flyers, but now it's kind of like, and back then, say things like this, like when I was in San Diego, and even a little bit when we moved here, if I had a band booked, like, gosh, I'm trying to think of a smaller band that did really well though, like Men at Work, which is the 80s. But if I had a band like Men at Work, booked, and we're cruising along, selling a few tickets here and there, but it wasn't blowing up, and then they won Grammy for Best New Artist. Literally the day after that Grammy win, the day after something like that happened for them, ticket sale, the show would sell out. Like we'd have 100 tickets sold for a show, and then literally we'd sell 700 tickets the next day.
Wow.
Next day and a half or whatever, because it mattered. Now people go, oh, well, this guy won a Grammy. I'm like, yeah, okay. How many tickets did he sell in Valdosta last time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the reality is I want to know how many tickets you've sold in the past, because it's not that I don't know, because you hear buzz and you talk to people. Like if you're freaking out a band, and then all of a sudden I run him on the street and he's freaking out a band and their local band, I'm going to check them out immediately, because two different people that, in two different times is telling me about this band. So,
Right.
But back then, literally, if you had a cover on the folio when we first moved here, that would blow the show out of the water. I mean, it would sell it out. Now you could the band could be on the cover of the folio, and this is, I hate saying, I shouldn't say folio only, anyway, Times Union, anything in print, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
It doesn't cause traction for the band as far as ticket sales. This is why this time is so horrifying with this pandemic right now, because everything is set up as an artist for you guys to make your real living and your real money playing shows on the road.
For sure.
Yeah.
Playing live shows.
Oh, we know.
And there's a real reason, but there's a real reason for that because people are social and that's why everyone's having so much problem with the pandemic and stuff because they don't want to have to stay away from everybody.
Yeah,
They
totally.
don't want that. I mean, people are social. They want to be, they want to be in the same room as the artist. And that's why I got offered after Silent Treatment. There was a time the singer left in that band, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, I wasn't managing that band. I was helping out a few of the band members' new bands, stuff like that. But I got offered a job at a record label, and I turned it down because I had started doing shows at that point. And I'm like, you know what? And the internet was happening, slowly, but it was happening. And I'm just sitting there going, this is like the 2000, maybe. No, this is like not 2000. This is like 89, maybe 90. But I was like, I didn't want to work for a record label because I'm thinking record labels aren't going to exist eventually.
Ugh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
it's a
if
great
everyone
foresight.
get your music online, everyone's going to get it online eventually.
That's
That's just,
true.
I mean, quality, sound quality suffers, all kinds of shit suffers, but people are creatures of what's easy for them.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of thing where it's like, I always, and until the pandemic hit, I always went, I'm in the safest part of the business, period. In other words, if you're good at booking bands and promotion, good at making things happen like that, then you're going to have a career.
Job security.
People are always
yeah.
going to keep going to shows,
But-
like you said.
right,
I liked what you
but-
said. Is like people just want to be in the same room as the artist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I always felt, there's a couple bands like XTC, the guys completely paralyzed by stage fright. That's the reason they never toured hardly. I mean, they did play a few shows here and there, but they didn't tour because he couldn't. He just got out there and completely froze.
Yeah.
And when they first came out in the early 80s, they could make a living without touring. And
Right,
now
you sell records and
tell
stuff.
me somebody that can go out there and make a living just on the music. It's very hard.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, there are. I feel like there's a movement now where a lot of it's going back, kind of a little bit. You have a lot of internet sensations, people that are monetizing their YouTube videos and
that's
streaming.
the big money maker for sure.
Yeah, and then you have like the Patreon and you have like these kind of Zoom streaming things that are going on. People are paying for access to those shows. And I think there is this kind of like artists and labels both have kind of figured out a way to make some passive income off of music that was kind of stolen from them from the
Exactly.
downloading era,
Yeah.
and then from streaming now as well. Although labels are crushing it on the streams, and Spotify's crushing, just
Yeah.
the artists are not making any money.
The thing is, and you're right. There are so many more artists though on Spotify than there were artists putting out records when there was not a Spotify.
Yes, yeah,
So you have to kind of look at it as like, okay, everybody and their mother, I could go record something and put it on Spotify. It'd be up there in a week or two.
right.
But back before that existed, I could go and record something, but if I couldn't get anyone to put it out,
It's not going into Walmart.
I could put it out myself, but it's not going to be out anywhere but the store I hand delivered it to because I
Well,
don't have distribution or whatever.
So yeah, that was a problem of the time then, but we have a similar problem now with streaming. Just exists in a kind of different dynamic where you have it, like you can put your music out on Spotify, but it doesn't mean that's going to get heard by
Right.
anybody.
Exactly.
So it's like what you have to do now, and what I've been doing a lot of research on with this record that we're about to put out, and is the playlist and figuring out, labels literally have curated playlists that they make for their artists, and they have millions of followers. So if you get on one of those playlists,
Yep.
you get your plays up. You reach out to the Spotify playlist curators, and then you can get your music on their playlist. These are the gatekeepers now
Yep.
of
People that vouch for you and are passionate about what you're doing.
So it's similar about how it worked in the day back then, but just the I guess the mode of how you got it there is just a little different.
Yeah, I'd say a lot different.
A lot
in other
different.
words, only a lot different because it changes so much.
Yeah.
In other words, when MySpace first came out, this is
Yeah.
before Facebook had any traction or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Corey Smith, that's how Corey Smith became, selling 1,000, 2,000 tickets. He made over $1 million, I think, the year after he was on
Taylor
MySpace.
Swift did the same thing off
I mean,
MySpace.
it's just like, and now it's irrelevant. MySpace
Oh, yeah,
is.
yeah,
But I'm
exactly.
saying that it's just when you think this is the road I'm going on.
Yeah.
Then somebody else does a TikTok video or whatever, something that just like you're like, holy shit, that's why I know about that.
I can't believe TikTok has become one of the new mediums for music. It's like every artist is talking about, like, no one's talking about Spotify anymore.
Yeah.
No one's talking about Pandora. Everyone's talking about TikTok now as a
you
new
can put
medium.
your songs on TikTok.
Yep.
I feel like an old man right now.
No, but I don't have TikTok. I mean, I don't have it.
either.
I mean, I've watched TikTok videos. And I think my wife has it on her phone, so I've watched stuff, and she sent me stuff. But I don't ever cruise around TikTok, and I honestly I'm super old school in that I still rely on agents and just people that I've known for years and years and years on who they have coming up, who they're pushing, and I'll go listen to it myself and trust my ear.
I actually wanted to ask you about that too. Do you find there's a lot I want to get?
I'm sorry, I ramble too.
No worries. I love where
I'll miss the entire World Series at this rate.
No, I love it.
I've recorded it.
I have a lot of these. I have a lot of these questions on my mind, but you're getting to them. So I want to know if a band does have representation. Do you think does that pique your interest in the band a little bit more?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Again, it's people you trust, and there's a lot of agents I don't trust at all, literally at all. Like they could say something to me, and if somebody said, "Do you think he's telling the truth?" I'd be like, "Probably not." I mean, there's so many agents that just lie.
Yeah.
And there's bands that do it too. I mean, believe me. I'm not going to say the band, but anyways, there was a band that
let's get the dirt, Tim.
there's a reggae band. Here you go. I'll give you a little taste of it. There's a
Local?
reggae band. No, that I don't know if they're not even from the Southeast, but
Okay.
But they played a lot of shows for us, and it seemed like every time they had a new agent, like, because they went through several agents, they would say, "Yeah, they told me they sold it out," and I'm like, "No, they played on a show with Sidereel, and they sold it out, and they were the opening act or something like that." And it would be like literally where I'm just going, these guys are constantly misrepresenting themselves on what they drew for real. And I would much rather a band tell me they draw 20 and draw 50 than tell me they draw 100 and draw 50.
So I
don't want to be let down.
Yeah,
you know
of
what I
course.
mean? And it's like, and I understand. Believe me, if you say we draw about 50 people, and you came in and drew 30 or 40, but I'd be like, yeah, man, tough night or whatever, you know. But when a band will come in and say, we're going to sell out your I've had this happen so many times. We're going to sell out your club, and literally the night of the show, they have 7 people that came to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what, you know, I don't have time for that shit.
So don't lie, kids.
No, it's just
because people are not dumb.
Or just
well, the thing is, we talk. You know what I mean? It's like I talk to Jason all the time. I mean, especially when we're actually working, you know, in the business. But I have a friend in Orlando that I actually co-promote shows with occasionally. You know, I still have all my friends in San Diego. There's networks there's basically independent networks only that you know, that Live Nation buyers and stuff like that because Live Nation, they have their own network. Like, they have to do meetings every Monday or whatever online, and every buyer for Live Nation across the country is on that meeting, and they're saying what they're doing and blah blah. Well, all these little independent networks, a guy named Dave Poe basically used to be an agent, has gathered everyone together in one spot, and we can all go on this Slack channel basically and talk about what we're doing, what we have, who's coming through, how did that show do for you? You know what I mean? It's
Really?
just like sharing information, because that's the only way we can compete.
kind of like a union a little bit.
Yeah,
like a promoters
that's the only
union.
way we can compete against Live Nation and AG, because believe me, hundreds of bands I could tell you about that got huge, that I did them 5 times. 21 Pilots, huge band.
Yeah.
I gave them the exact same offer for the amphitheater when they started blowing up. We did 2 shows at Jackrabbits, 2 shows at Freebird, and then the 5th show was going to be at St. Augustine Amphitheater. And I think it was AEG, not Live Nation, but one of those 2 big ones. And they're the 2 biggest, period, in the country. One of those 2 promoters basically stole them basically from us and put them at the amphitheater and gave them the exact same deal. Like, I told the agent, I said, whatever they're giving you, I'll give you exactly the same thing. Doesn't matter. And he just kind of made up excuses, and band fucked me.
man.
You know what
I
I
think
mean?
it's because Live Nation, because of the name.
Oh,
Live Nation.
no, it's
Yeah.
because they sit there and they go, well, in the long run, we're not going to be doing a show with Tim at the stadium or at the arena. They're going to be
Okay.
doing it with Live Nation or AG. But it hurts when they're going into a room that you already go into, and they're basically stealing it early on you. And it's kind of like, I say stealing it, but the reality is I'm the one that did them at Jackrabbits first time. I did them at Jackrabbits second time. I brought them up to the Freebird. They sold out the Freebird the fourth time. Fifth time still should have been my show. They weren't pissed when they left. They got paid. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
You know, right on, bro, you know, kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, you mean the show that I really could have made like 15 grand, 20 grand on profit on one show? Just, you know, when you have a show like that, it means, okay, my bills are paid for a quarter, or whatever, you know? That hurts, man, because you're not making big money at Jackrabbits or even Freebird for that matter. You know, when you're anything under 1,000 capacity, it's really hard to make a good living. And I'm not saying that you can't make a living. I'm just saying it's, you know,
grind.
It pays your bills. That's it.
Do you, so how much of that do you think was 21 Pilots, like the people in the band versus like the labels and
it was
their management?
It absolutely is their management. Maybe some of the agency too, because they were a CAA band, I believe. And CAA, there's a whole South Park episode. I don't know if you guys watch South Park.
Yeah, of course.
There's a South Park episode where Cartman starts his own agency, Super Awesome Talent Agency.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember that.
Well, that episode is, they call out CAA. I mean, the big agency that steals Token from him is called CAA. They never say what it stands for.
Right.
But that's what CAA is, one of the big three.
Yeah.
Is that when they started the Christian band?
No, that's a different
one. That's
one.
a different one. Sorry. Okay,
William Morris is the other one, yeah.
William Morris Endeavor and Paradigm now.
Paradigm, okay. Good for them.
But everybody's pretty much, like, there's a shitload of new agencies starting up right now because all the agents, like, I would say, I don't know, I'm probably wrong on it, but at least feels like at least 50% of the music agents at Paradigm aren't there now.
Really?
Because they got laid off. There's nothing to do for them. You know
yeah.
I mean? You can't be booking live bands and no bands be on tour, and there's no work. You know what I mean?
Work. There's no income. You can't pay. Even if they get a base pay, you can't even afford to pay that anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So there's actually something that I did want to go back to about the bands lying and the agents lying. There's got to be. The agents getting bad information and then giving you the bad information that the bands gave them.
Yep.
Isn't there a way to vet that information? Because at the end of the night, or something that I'm very, very, very big on with bands that are coming up is like, and something that nobody taught me until much later on was know your numbers by the end of the night. Right?
Yeah.
Like know how many people walk through the door.
Yeah.
Know whatever. Just know those numbers, right? Because that's going to arm you.
You can tell. I mean, the reality is very rarely do I have anyone challenge me on what our number. In other words, we have it nowadays. It's all way better than it used to be. I mean, it used to be literally hash marks. We do hash marks still at Jackrabbits, but we also run it through our ticketing system, so it's keeping track of it.
It's like, what band are you here to see?
Right.
And they literally have like a hash mark. But I like that.
That was all due. That started. I think I started in San Diego actually, but that started because we started doing it that way because we got tired of a band coming in, and we knew that everybody was here to see this band, and they just were lucky to play right before them.
Like that reggae band you were talking about before.
Yeah, exactly. They're opening for Side Reel, and everyone knows Side Reel's selling out the Freebird on their own. And then you come in, you open for them, and you're going around telling people that you sold out the Freebird. It's like, no, you didn't.
Right.
You were the opening act on a sold-out show at the Freebird that was headlined by this band.
So isn't there a way for agents to get that information before, rather than just taking the band's word for it?
Yeah, no,
if a good manager collects that information by the end of the night, then they know what the actual numbers are, and then they can report it to the agent.
Right.
So the agent can represent you honestly. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But, and there was a specific agent, and it's funny. It's kind of where it stopped, where he was saying, "Yeah, they told us this," and I said, "Look." Again, it's hard for me not to say the name of the agent even, but I was like, "Look, man," I go, how long have we known you? And I'm like, "Look, dude, the band's starting to draw. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take away from the band." I go, "But they have done this at least 5 times already, from the actual band doing it to telling their agent bad information." And I said, "But I'm not telling you that they're not worth anything because they're starting to draw. But you can't, I can't sit there and give you a guarantee based on what they're telling you."
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, I just have to go back and look at the numbers and go, "Hey, man, yeah, I know it was sold out, but I also know that because we asked at the door, everyone was here to see this band or whatever." I go, "I tell you what, next time let's have Side Reel or whoever play before them, and see how the room clears. You know what I mean? It's like that's the worst thing in the world as a band. You know that.
Yep.
The worst thing in the world is for you to realize that all these people are here for someone else, and they're all filtering out. And it's not a time of day thing. It's literally if they were there to see if they're there to see you, they'll wait till midnight, 1 o'clock. And I'm not an advocate of doing shows that late, but when I first started doing shows in San Diego, literally the headliners would go on at 1 in the morning.
Much later.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go see. I saw Jane's Addiction. I don't know how many times at Scream, and they never hit the stage till 2 in the morning.
So
That's awesome.
So I actually want to I want to ask
Guns
you
N'
about
Roses never. Guns N' Roses the same way when they were coming up. They never hit the stage on time.
So I wanted to ask you about that. What was it like coming up in the San Diego scene? Do you have any early mentors that kind of showed you the ropes?
Yeah.
And
There's this one guy. His name's Harlan Schiffman. He was Fine Line Entertainment, and basically he was doing a lot. He did all the cool shows back in the day. He was the first guy really to book Iguanas, which was a very short lit. You should look it up though. It was a brilliant club, and it was in Tijuana, Mexico.
Okay.
But in San Diego, it was 21 up for everything, or it was if it was an all ages show, there was no alcohol to be served anywhere.
Oh, no way.
It was either all ages, no alcohol, or 21 and up, and so that's hard on the scene. So, San Diego's on the border of Mexico. So guess what? Some
Go down
people
the
in Mexico
border.
said, yeah, you can drink at 18 in Mexico. So everyone would just go to shows down there.
No shit.
I mean, the opening weekend of that place was the Ramones and Jane's Addiction and somebody else. I mean, it was like 3 days of mayhem, and it was like, but the thing about Iguanas is it's Mexico.
Yeah.
Totally different building codes, shit like that.
Of course.
You were the way the club was designed was you basically went up these long stairwell and got to the box office, and then you walk, and there's this big patio for smoking and drinking, eating, whatever. And then you literally went down this tube-like thing that was supposed to be the belly of the iguana, and it literally went like swirled all the way in,
that's so cool.
down to the floor. But there was things offshoots, and there was all these tiers, like literally 3 or 4 tiers, and they all, like, if you were on the rail, those tiers, you could jump off, and if you were close to the stage, you could land on the stage. I saw
shit.
I saw a Rollins band show one time there where this guy jumped off the stage, and on the way down, he got from me to you pretty much with Rollins, but as he landed on the stage, his arms were like this, and he lands, and his elbow caught Rollins in the back of the head because he was singing
Oh
and
my
Rollins
God.
went down, and that was it. I like the band's looking around kind of like, and you see Henry get up, and he's kind of staggering a little bit, and he's like he had to be seeing stars, and he was just like, all right, just to show you how badass of a band I have, we're gonna start that song that we just stopped playing in the middle of. We're going to start it with one bar of the where we left it off, and then they just started playing again, and it was just nuts. And I mean, it's just like, but you can't. There's no way. I look at that and go, there's no way that the building codes in our country would allow
Maybe
that.
that's what we should do. We
venue
should
to happen.
start opening up a couple of venues in Tijuana.
Yeah,
Well, that's
we'll
what I'm
do.
saying. If we were on the border, yeah. But it was an amazing. I mean, you could drink pretty much as a kid and watch shows and everything, and you didn't have to deal with San Diego.
And the guy that owned this club was kind of your mentor?
No. He booked the shows there. A lot of
okay.
the shows there, most of them. But he basically taught me how to do shows. Like, we were. He taught me how to do shows in general, not just there. He had shows on the other side. Matter of fact, he did a lot of shows at the club that I would eventually buy and turn into Brick by Brick. It was called the Spirit Club before that, and he used to tell me, he goes, yeah, I got some bills coming up. I got to do a Bad Religion show soon, because Bad Religion sold out every single show they ever
Yeah,
did.
I can imagine.
And so it was kind of like, he just do a Bad Religion show, and then okay, now I can pay my bills. But it was one of those things
So
where it was
funny.
funny. But it's one of those things where he taught me how to settle shows and how deals worked normally back then, and deals are different now. And when sometimes people go, well, how do you do your deals? I'm like, man, now it's like, okay, I'll listen to what the band wants to do and see if it makes sense to me, then I'll do it. If it doesn't, a lot of times I'll pass and just go, it's not worth it for me,
How were they done back then?
Basically, if you say it was $500 guarantee, you basically take the guarantee. I mean, I think Jason explained. I think I caught this part on Jason's, but explain it. You know, the guarantee, and then you take all the expenses and add them onto the guarantee, and then you take that number and take 15% on top of that. That goes to you for your risk, which I don't know anybody in any other business that would ever risk, you know, $10,000 of your money. And but I'm gonna ask you to risk $10,000, and you're only gonna get 1,500 back.
Right.
You're gonna get your 10,000 back, but you're only gonna make 1,500.
That's a bad bet.
1,500 for your risk.
No, I know.
That's bullshit. But that's the music business. You know what I mean? It's like that's you know, so many people want to do it that
It's like a negative 300 money line.
people
right
just
there.
keep getting undercut. You know?
So if you
There
have
was a time when Hanson came out. You know, I mean, there was a lot of door deals in the 90s and stuff, and that's when that kind of stuff started happening more, where it wasn't a really big guarantee, but it was like a really big percentage of the gross, and that's when you have the promoters and everybody going, well, shit, all we can make is this much money. We better fucking go back to the venue and say, yeah, look, all these people you're charging $15 a park. We want part of that.
Okay,
You know what
I
I mean,
see.
because they don't come here if you know.
you don't do your job.
Yeah, if we get those people here, we should get paid for them. You know.
So did bands not take a cut of doors before that point either?
Yeah, door deals happened a lot, but it's kind of thing where not as much as they do now.
Right.
In other words,
There's less risk
like-
involved. It seems like less guaranteed if you do that, right?
yes and no. I mean, it's like it's definitely not having a guarantee is a less of a risk if something bad were to happen where you couldn't
As a
produce
promoter,
the
not a
shows.
band, yeah.
Right.
Depends on the band though
But
too. You
but
know?
I mean, Rebelution. I'm not going to tell you their deal, but Rebelution, which is coming up, and I'm just saying, it's
Yeah,
one
of
of those
course,
things where
yeah, of course, yeah.
I could hear their agent call me up. What the fuck are you saying about?
I totally get
But
it. Yeah.
but they do door deal. Period. And it's one of those things where if your band's confident,
Yeah.
you're almost always going to make a better payday on a door deal every day of the week
Sure.
that.
than you will on a guarantee deal, because you know, if I'm having to guarantee that money, I want to get my guarantee back. I want to get paid. I want to not have any expenses. I want to make more. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm taking all this risk. I need to make more money.
So even if you do a guarantee plus percentage of the door, it still works out better if it's a band that knows they're gonna, like, say, sell out the amphitheater.
Right.
It still works better to take 100% of the door.
Or yeah, they don't get
Or not
100%.
100%. Sorry,
like,
not 100%.
The deals haven't got that bad. But what I was gonna say though is Hanson fucked everything up for everybody, because that little band was getting 97% of the gate
Jesus.
when at the height of the band, when Mbop or whatever was huge, but they were getting 90. I remember when I heard that, I was just like 97%, and it was Live Nation. I don't know what they're called then, but it was one of the huge promoters that gave them the whole tour, 97% of the gate. Well, of course, they've got all these other backdoor deals with every single venue that they're getting kickbacks on. So,
Yeah.
you know.
That's wild.
I just really like that you said that Hanson fucked everything.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
that's the
amazing.
band that did the 97% door deal, and I was just like,
So if
I'm only a big promoter could do that too. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't sit there, you know, if Rebelution started going, we want 97% of the gate, deal with it, figure it out. I'll be like, I can't figure it out because I don't have enough shows. If you're giving me the whole tour at 97%, let me get on the phone. Let me start talking to all these venues saying, hey man, I can bring you this. I can bring you this. I can bring you this. And then, you know, maybe I can cut enough deals, you know, that are off the show books. In other words, they're not bad. They're not illegal. There's not anything ethical about them, because it's a deal that I'm cutting with the venue.
Yeah.
It's not a deal that has anything to do with the band.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're counting on the band. You know, obviously I have to produce the show, but that's where it gets, and it gets really hairy. I mean, ticket fees, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, man. A lot of big bands are getting pieces of the ticket fees right now. And
Yeah, that's
it's
what
kinda
I've
like,
heard.
it really pisses people like me off, because I'm
That's
like,
what-
you don't understand, man. It's like, there's plenty of shows where I break even or lose money that if I didn't have a ticket fee rebate or anything like that, if I didn't have, or if I didn't get part of the bar, or if I, you know what I mean? Obviously, Jackrabbits my wife owns, and so I get part of the bar no matter what. But it's like, you know, if you don't have a good enough deal with the venue and the band starts cutting into not just they're taking percentage of the ticket, but they're taking this and that, and you know what I mean. Then all of a sudden you're kind of like, I don't even know why I'm here. You
Yeah,
know
they're
what I mean?
eating
It's
into
like-
all your.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jason was talking about that when, like, especially in the arena shows and the bigger venues where bands are getting a kickback on the ticket fee, or the ticket
Yeah.
fees and that kind of thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't really understand what you mean by this ticket fee rebate thing.
Okay, you know how everyone gets pissed off at Ticketmaster, and it's like
They're the devil,
it's a
yeah.
$5 ticket, but it's really a $15 ticket.
Right.
Now, I don't have any shows that do that. Now, granted, though, I do have shows that the way my ticketing system, well, not mine, but the way the ticketing system I use for my shows, unless I'm in a room like the amphitheater, I have to use Ticketmaster because they're signed with the venue is signed with Ticketmaster. Yeah, they have an exclusive with Ticketmaster.
The venue is okay.
venue
okay,
is,
okay,
right.
Not the band.
But like, like I can use e-tix at 1904 when
Right.
the show's there because Jason doesn't, even though he's with Eventbrite, he's with Eventbrite now, which was Ticketfly. But
Oh, I
but
didn't know that.
Ticketfly got swallowed up by Eventbrite, which if I would have bailed out immediately from that as soon as I heard that because Eventbrite was terrible when it just as Eventbrite. But
Really?
anyways, like Rory, you know Rory, the promoter Rory
Yeah.
from For Your Friends.
Yeah.
He was with Ticketfly, and that whole thing happened where they got hacked and nobody could sell any tickets and their websites were all down and blah
Oh,
blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah, I
It was
remember that.
horrible. But he basically got out of his deal with Ticketfly at that point and went with eTix, which is who we are with, and it's been great. But I can bring it like a lot of shows I can do. But if it's a Ticketmaster venue, like the like Ponte Vedra Concert Hall or the amphitheater, I have to use what they use. So
Right. So
But you were saying like for the ticket rebate and everything like that was going to you, or is the promoter or the venue?
no, okay. Say it's like it's. I think for a $10 ticket, if you bought it online at Jackrabbits for a $10 ticket, I think you're paying somewhere around $13 to $14
Okay.
with fees. Now, close to $2 of that fee of the $3 or $4 goes to the ticketing company,
Right.
because they have to. I mean, they got to make money too. I mean, it's like it's a big ass. When they set that whole thing up, you know what I mean?
Sure,
it
they
costs
got-
money. They have a lot of employees, but there's also usually $1 of it or something that'll go back to the back to the promoter
Because
as a
you're
rebate.
because you're partnering with them.
Right, we're doing business.
I never knew that. I always thought that Ticketmaster was just like, fuck you, I'm going to take
Now,
all of this money.
just to let you know, I've had benefit shows. I've had other shows where I've waived my side. In other words, that way, those are the ones where you see it's only like $1.80 or $2.20 on the commission. That 100% is going to the ticket company. 'cause
No,
they
but
don't waive
I like
anything.
knowing that it's not going straight to just some corporation. It's actually going to the venue.
Well,
I never knew that.
But what happens though with some things, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but like Ticketmaster and other services, or maybe it's promotion companies, I can't remember exactly which one it is, but they keep the data though that comes through those. Like for instance, like if you buy a ticket through Ticketmaster, right, and you're gonna, let's say you're buying a ticket that's like a bigger act, like let's say Rebelution, okay, and then you put in all your information, your email, your age, your gender, all that stuff, and then you go to see Rebelution. Ticketmaster or whatever, they keep that information. So Rebelution doesn't actually get access to their demographic in that area.
Not true really anymore because sorry, man.
No
But
worries.
I'm not sick. I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
was
the
gonna
COVID.
say,
Swear to God.
That's all right, Bob.
But I mean, there's a lot of contracts now that say that they want access to all the data that we have on it. In other words, they want, like, if it's all the people that bought online, well, of course you have their name and you have their email address. They want that information. They act as and
They won't give that away.
Is this a new
yeah,
thing?
it's happening more and more.
I was gonna
but
say,
it's one of those
yeah.
things where we generally don't care. We're just like, yeah, we'll give it to you as long as the ticket company's cool with it.
Yeah. The ticket
Because-
companies aren't cool with it though, because they want.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, ultimately, it's about getting the word out for that band.
Mm-hmm.
And if the band starts selling their tickets direct,
Yep.
then then ticket companies don't make money.
Exactly.
But the reality is, and you know, is most bands, and this is, I'm trying to make this not come out wrong, but don't have their shit together enough to do all that stuff.
Right.
And that's the reason those businesses exist.
Right.
That there's no one fighting to be like, hey, we deserve these contacts and everything like that.
Well,
no, I'm talking about just ticketing and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
just setting
you
up their
could
own.
sell your own ticketing. You know, anyone can sell their own ticketing nowadays. But
Yeah.
but it's like,
Most bands won't do it though. That's kind of what you.
it's not even just it's yeah, most won't do it, but won't do it well either.
Right.
You know?
So that's why the ticketing companies exist, and then the data that they keep the data. They don't want you to have as leverage.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So like, why don't we just start up our own ticketing company that's free, and then we would just get all your data to it, and then we just destroy Ticketmaster.
That's actually what
You in?
Andrew. That's
That
actually
ain't
what
gonna
Andrew
happen,
Schultz is talking
he's like,
about.
he's not like,
Are you familiar with Andrew Schultz, a comedian? He's from New York.
Okay.
Anyways, he was talking about that. He was like, this is why he's been so successful with his careers. He's actually just taken on his he handles all this stuff in house now. So he's like, I found out that this is what was happening with the ticketing companies, is that they were keeping the data, but I need that data so I know, so I can know,
So you can
how
direct
to market.
promote.
Yeah,
So you can
exactly.
send an email out next time you're in town, going, "Hey guys, I'm in town."
Exactly. That's why
You
we
enjoyed
have
the
email
show.
lists. That's why we get email lists. But it's like if this has already been done, then it's like let me just have the data. But then that makes them irrelevant. So
Do
they
you
don't want
also
you to have
think
the
that
data.
they do that and keep that information private because like it's private though, and that
No,
maybe
that-
people don't want that out?
That's not true.
You can
though.
talk to Zuckerberg about that shit.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause that's actually.
I
It's actually
agree.
not being. It's just like it's
There's
to the
no
highest
such thing
bidder.
as privacy.
So
anymore.
yeah, they're
Exactly.
not. It's not out of goodwill.
No.
they're just doing like we're just leverage like who wants it.
Yeah,
The highest-
exactly.
okay,
That's
that
all
makes
it
sense.
is. You know.
Well, they sell their list to all kinds of people.
Exactly.
I mean, the thing is, if we start talking about, trying to think of something that we could talk about that all of a sudden start popping up on window, my Facebook feed will pop up with all these advertisements on it.
Oh,
You don't-
yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to type it in your computer anymore. I'm telling you, man, they're listening to
Oh
everything.
yeah, totally. It's
Well,
like-
yeah, like I bought my friend, my old roommate, like a Pittsburgh Pirates hat for Christmas.
Now you're a big Pittsburgh fan.
I'm a huge Pirates fan now.
Yeah,
all of a
it's just
sudden,
all over the
according to
place.
Google, but whatever.
So I actually had wanted to bring it back just a little bit. Was there any going back to early mentors and stuff like that? Was there any like really hard lessons that you learned when you first started? Like maybe extending too much of like a goodwill towards a band or a club or whatever. Just any hard lessons that you learned early on.
Sorta. I mean, not. I mean, there's a venue that doesn't exist now, so you probably can guess which one it is. But that I insisted on doing our ticketing at only because I was just like, you know what? If this person collects my money, one night he's gonna go, oh man, I don't have enough to pay this or that tonight. Let me get your ticket money to you later, kind of thing, And you just if I'm having to pay everything out, then I should at least have control of the income too.
Yeah.
And so, you got to watch your money, period.
Yeah.
Is what it boils down to. As far as things that I remember, I mean, it's scary to do shows in Tijuana if you don't have the right connections.
I'm thinking Tijuana might be a nice place to go do a show.
I sat in a settlement that I wasn't. A couple different stories off the settlement. It was for the band Tool. You know Tool is.
Never
right?
heard of 'em.
Okay. Anyways, but never heard of those guys. But anyways, it was Tool and they were playing Iguanas. I think they were playing 2 nights.
They were playing in Tijuana.
Yeah. This place held like 1,200, 1,500 people.
That's
But
amazing.
anyways, they at settlement it was my friend Harlan at Fine Line Entertainment. He co-pro'd it with Golden Voice, which ended up being AEG eventually. But Golden Voice, Paul Tillett, he's the guy that does what's the big one out in the desert?
Burning Man.
Burning Man.
No, the other one. The
Coachella?
Coachella. He's the one that started Coachella and bought all that land out there and everything. Anyways, this was, I think his partner was Rick, I believe, at the time. But I think Rick was already in jail for massive amounts of marijuana trafficking. But anyways, that's how Golden Voice, like that's how Paul. I mean, everything got shifted to Paul because he was the partner with this guy, and he didn't get busted for all that stuff. So, anyways, but we were at the settlement, and so it was me, Harlan, a couple different representatives of the band, and a couple people from Golden Voice, I believe. Anyways, it's like 7 of us, and 6 out of the 7 of us were left-handed. I mean, that was weird. I mean, it's out of left field. You're just kind of like, that's weird. But then it's supposedly, left-handed people are, supposedly artistic. I'm not artistic to save my fucking life, period. But I recognize good art, apparently. But also what happened was at the end of that, the settlement had already happened. Everything settled. The band was gone. The band's reps are gone. Paul, I don't even think Paul was there for settlement. I think he already left to go across the border and left it with Harlan. Anyways, as near as I remember, it was me, Harlan, and like 2 or 3 other people. And there was these federales came in, the cops, and they came in and no, you can't leave yet. You got to pay tax. And basically, it was some bullshit made up tax.
Bullshit. Yeah.
And I remember him whipping. I mean, literally, he paid him like $3,000 on this.
Good Lord.
Just right there. And he's just like, cost of doing business down here sometimes. He goes, did I want to give that to him? No, but we were driving back. He goes, but I didn't want to end up in jail and stuff either. In a Mexican jail.
Just buried in the desert.
In a Mexican jail. Well, it'd be more just in a Mexican jail until he came up with the money to get you out. Jesus. But the thing is, it was nuts because, like, to do shows at Iguanas, like the bands had to meet you at the San Ysidro McDonald's parking lot, which is on San Diego side, and then everyone had to go in a caravan across the border together.
Wait, but like at the customs, right?
Yeah,
okay.
To get through customs without being hassled.
Oh, okay. All
they
go
don't
at
care.
once.
Most of the time, this is the thing too. We'd have to tell the bands, all right, I don't give a shit what kind of drugs you do, but do them all. Bring only what you can do while you're there.
Yeah, don't try to get
Don't
back
think you're bringing any back.
That's good advice.
Because there's no fucking way you're going to get across that border.
You heard it here first, kids.
But seriously, it was like, if you have any contraband, you better not have it on the way back. That's when you're going to have problems. And, anyways, but it's one of those things where it's like, you had to meet on the United States side, and then everyone went over in a caravan. And Harlan gave me a card a long time ago because I worked with him on a lot of shows. I mean, all I did was really just help out, but it was his show still. But he gave me a card that had some guy's name on it. And he goes, if federales ever pull you over or you ever get in any situation, just give them this card. Luckily, I never got in a situation like that, but I did find out later that the card basically was one of the super high up government officials in all of Mexico. And it was like, he goes, it's like you're get out of jail free. He's
wow.
Like, they will
like
not
a literal
fuck with you.
get out of jail free card.
Well,
Yeah.
they won't fuck with you, yeah.
That's so wild, man.
It was just...
I've always wanted to go to Tijuana. I don't know why, just because it's always like in movies and everything like that.
As under 21, everyone wants to go. But once you're older, you don't want to
You
go.
don't want to go? Okay, it seems like that's the place to go when you're 17 in San Diego as a kid.
Yeah, it's awful as far as like smells, and it's like
Okay.
some of the shows there. Don't go to the donkey show.
Nice.
You can never forget that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Did you go to a donkey show?
I didn't.
Sounds like you went to a donkey show, Tim.
Not telling you anything. Those will be buried.
Stays in Mexico.
Yeah. So how connected? Because San Diego is like 2 hours south of LA.
Yeah, 2.5 hours. Yeah.
So how connected were you guys to that scene?
That's what was great about San Diego is like it was everything LA was without having to be LA.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of bands would that were from San Diego would go to LA to make it, quote unquote, because that's where the industry was, and I get it. But a lot of bands stayed in like Stone Temple Pilots. Everyone they for the first record claimed they were from San Diego. Well, yeah, Dean and Robert, well, mainly Robert, but lived in San Diego for a little while and was good friends with a friend of mine that was front band for a local band there and stuff. So yeah, they were kind of from San Diego, but they weren't from San Diego at all. And they got, it was hilarious because there's a thing called the San Diego Music Awards there that a friend of mine does, or has done for years and years. I think I think they're probably on the 30th one now or something like that. But he, apparently they just didn't kind of really. He wasn't tied in enough or whatever to realize that the outrage that would happen. But basically, Stone Temple Pilots got nominated for like best local band or something like that, and the local scene lost their shit about it because they were just like, they don't even they're not even living here. Nobody's from here, It's like, and I'm like, it was a mistake that somebody fucked up, but yeah, so it's kind of like funny because San Diego for a little while it was all the record labels, everybody was in San Diego going, it's next Seattle, it's next Seattle. No one in San Diego thought it was next Seattle, but they had to find a new Seattle. And that's San Diego is what they decided, but so a lot of bands got like a lot of bands cashed in that you never heard their names outside San Diego, but they made some big money deals with major record labels, and then
really,
one record and gone.
So there was an interesting, speaking of the Seattle scene, I saw the podcast or the interview that you did with Nico at the beginning of the quarantine thing, and there was something you talked about that I thought I would have never, ever, ever even thought about. But you talked about Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam when they were first getting started, and you were booking a club in San Diego.
Yep.
And it was right before their single had come out, and then you booked them at this smaller club, maybe the size of Rain Dogs or maybe a little bigger. Yeah,
that's the club that he was a part of. Like, I was brought in. I was booking this place called Soma, which, by the way, is the first place I actually got paid to book a band in. And I got $5 per band that I booked for this guy, this owner.
That's fuck you money right there.
It was all ages. It was all ages club, no alcohol. And this guy Lynn goes, all these bands, you're friends with them, blah blah. He goes, why don't you book the basement? Every weekend, 4 bands a night, and I'll give you $5 per band. I'm like, okay.
Don't spend it all in one place, kid.
So I was getting $20 a night.
That's like 40 cheeseburgers.
So you had talked about,
but basically with Eddie and my friend Greg and Beth, which is Eddie's girlfriend at the time, became his wife and now is his ex-wife and blah blah. But anyways, her and a friend of mine named Eric, and everybody was like college age or not knowing what the fuck they're doing, with their life kind of stuff.
Right.
Anyways, and Eddie, right around the same time, Beth got a job at Virgin Records. And so she was moving to L.A. Eddie joined a band called Indian Summer. See, a lot of people don't realize it didn't go bad radio to Pearl Jam for him. He had a band in between called Indian Summer that was very short-lived, obviously. But anyways, he was doing Indian Summer and still living probably with Beth. And so they were out of the club. It was called Red Tape. They were out of this club. And Eric was doing a lot of show work, like gig work and stuff. And Brian Kuntz, I think, lined him up with some bands where he ended up touring a little bit and stuff like that. And then my friend Greg was a good friend of mine. He was the last one of that group that did this club called Red Tape. And he didn't want to see it die, but he also was like, I can't do all this on my own. So he goes, will you come in and, book bands and just help me produce the club every week? And it was a Saturday night club every Saturday, once a week. And we go in, it was basically a restaurant. And so we go in, and literally, it was all wooden. It was a seafood restaurant. It looked like a seafood restaurant. Like
the Krusty Krab or something?
It looked so lame, yeah. It looked so lame. So we literally would take, and obviously the fire marshal didn't come see us ever, because we'd take black visqueen, sheets of it, and cover everything up that was brown and wood, and it looked like a ship, We just cover it all in visqueen. And sometimes we'd spray stuff, on it with neon paint and put a black light on it or whatever. But we literally covered this club in black visqueen and did, there was a little room down at the bottom that was a little buffet room, quote unquote, but we put a stage up in front of the fireplace that was like the stage was about as big as from this couch to that. I mean, it could not have been bigger than 8 by 10 at the most.
That's where Pearl Jam played?
Yeah.
No
and I got stories about that night too. It's hilarious. But they basically, you had that little room, which probably 100 people could jam in there at the most. And then you had a hallway, and then there was a stairwell, and it went upstairs, and there was a bigger room that we had like DJs and dancing and stuff in it. It was really cool. And there was a bar up there and everything. and then underneath the stairs there was a couple pool tables down below. So it was just really cool vibe. Trent Reznor was there one night. We didn't even know it. Like,
Really?
he was there all night, and we were standing next to the door, and I looked at, it wasn't Mindy who was doing the door back then. I think it was Denise. I think we looked at each other. I go, is that Trent Reznor just left? And she's like, I think so. And I was like, holy shit, Trent
Just
Reznor
checking
was,
out the
he was
place.
just lurking in the shadows watching everything.
Sounds about right.
But we probably played his music like crazy. I mean, we played, that's all we played back then was industrial for the most part. But yeah, Pearl Jam played on that tiny little stage, and Eddie had walked in, like, he was surfing all day, and he walks in, and he's like, wow, this is a lot smaller than I remember it. And I'm like, it's the same size, Eddie. I said, just, you guys are playing bigger and bigger rooms. He's like, yeah, I know. It's going to be awesome. He goes, I got some friends I got to get in, though, all right? And I'm like, no problem. We're already sold out. Whatever, you just come out, pick them out of the line or whatever, and I'll bring them in, whatever, and blah, blah. So, but yeah, that was weird.
Well, so what you told Nico was that he came back to you after the single. It was before the single was released, and their single had come out. They sold out the show, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, we might want to play a theater that's in town. And you told him the importance of selling out a room versus playing a theater in a market.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I didn't tell him. It was just one of those things where his agent and stuff, the agent and management was pushing hard for us to move it to the Bacchanal, which was I want to say 400 capacity, and we were selling out at 200, even though only 100 probably could fit in that room. But we'd sell 200 tickets.
Well, we got to talk about the overselling aspect in a minute.
Well, there's plenty of shows and everywhere. You know, if you have a patio, I'm not going to talk about names, but if you have a patio that you can overflow into, you can sell the shit out of that show.
Oh, I'm
and
well
everyone's
aware.
on their own as far as they get to see the band or not.
Yep.
And that's what happens all the time.
Yep.
I mean, the thing is, think about it. Freebird, I don't know, to this day, I don't know how Judy got her capacity that high, but the Freebird legal capacity was 690.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm telling you, 690 people was not going to see that stage that night.
Oh, no, not at all.
Definitely
Because
not.
if you're not on the rail or downstairs, you're
Yeah.
not going to see the stage.
You're not gonna see anything.
Right.
I just loved hanging out on the balcony. That was my favorite
Yeah,
part about that place.
But I'm saying, though, that it's like she legally could sell 690, 700. There's plenty of places that, like I said, you have overflow and you know, then everybody decides when the headliner comes on, they all got to be in there because that's
Yeah,
where
at
the
the
game
same
Now we got a
time,
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now there's a problem. So it's
Yeah.
always kind of, I don't, what were you talking about?
Well, no, so it's no worries. So the importance of playing in a market and selling out a show in a smaller room rather than just saying you play
Yeah.
the theater at half cap.
I called Eddie and I said, hey man, I go, the show's pretty much sold out already, and everyone's pushing for us to move to the Bacchanal. And he actually worked at the Bacchanal, like volunteering, doing tech work there right before he went up to L.A. and joined Indian Summer. But you know, when Bad Radio was kind of falling apart, he would just go in tech, and that's how he ended up meeting the Pearl Jam guys, was because of Jack Irons, which was in a band called 11, and he met Jack Irons up in L.A. when he was working as a hand basically at the Bacchanal, and he who was it? Joe Strummer, The Clash, came through. It wasn't The Clash, and it wasn't, you know, it was just Joe Strummer and whatever band he had that time. Was
Right.
playing clubs. Anyways, so he came through, and Eddie's obviously a huge Clash fan. And he's like, you know, so he was like, yeah, man. And then Joe's like, yeah, you're cool, man. You want to be my guitar tech for the rest of the road, you know? And so Eddie just went with him. I mean, because he had a security job or whatever. It's the job that, it's a great kind of job where you can just go. You know what I mean? You know, if you lose the job, you lose the job. Pick up the next job, you know? It's good for somebody like that to be able to do that. But anyways,
Yeah.
so he went up to L.A. and he ended up meeting Jack Irons at a show and blah, blah. You know what I mean? And Jack's like, hey, this band Mother Love Bone, their singer just died, blah, blah. So that's how that happened. I totally went off on a tangent there.
That's okay.
But we were talking about, I called up Eddie and I said, look, man, I said,
love it.
I said, look, man, I said, we have never had a sold out where we turn people away at Red Tape yet. And I go, you know, now I know that you guys can do a lot more tickets, but wouldn't it just be great to come back to the club that you were a part of starting and and sell it out? And he's like, yeah, I'll tell him. We're just going to stay at Red Tape and do the show there. And I'm like, okay. And that's why I thought it was so fucking funny when he walked in. He goes, this is a lot smaller than I remember. I'm like, it's the same size, man. You just, you're big time now, man. It's like, and I didn't say that to him because that would be the wrong, I mean,
Sure.
one of the guys that worked for us at Red Tape helping decorate. When Pearl Jam later on played Iguanas, we were down there and I was talking to Eddie on the floor or something, and he was there. I'm not going to say his name. He was there, and he's like, you always wanted to be a rock star. And Eddie just looked at him like totally lost it. Didn't get mad at him, just said, no, he didn't. Because he really never. Yeah, I never heard him say, I want to be a rock. He wanted to make a living doing music, of course. But I don't think he ever really bought that he was going to sign on for that kind of rock stardom that he has.
I think that most successful people that have the longevity of someone like Eddie Vedder in their career, I think most people are just kind of like doing it for the right reasons. That have the longevity versus people that are just getting in it for the fame and the money. It's like, well, if that's what you're doing, then your career is going to kind of expose that a little bit, you know, and then you won't have a long career.
Explain Kanye West.
Well, I don't know that's what his intention was from the get-go. I think he maybe
I think Kanye West is just a sad example of mental illness in the country.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry for changing the subject.
No, it's okay. But
I was thinking about that because of did you hear this story about the Bonnaroo about Kanye West? It was like, I'm not going to play this stage right now. This isn't good enough for me. I want to play this different stage. But Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam decided to play the slot that Kanye West was going to do and headline it, and played a 3-hour set. It was like incredible.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I never heard the story, but I totally believe it. You know what I mean? Sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, but that just kind of goes to show, like, you know, the kind of person that he is and the success that he's had and why it's just. I feel like most people that get that successful in this industry have that mindset where it's like, I don't care about the fame and fortune so much. I like to make a good living, but really I just want to play music. You know?
And what I didn't, if I did say this in the other interview, I wasn't meaning to say like I told him to do this, but Pearl Jam early on, you know, would underplay purposely. You know, we can. How many tickets do they think we for sure can sell in this market? 1,000. Okay. Well, there's an 800 capacity room. Let's do that one.
That's got to be a very
they wanted to leave a little bit on the table every time, because the reality is if you didn't get to see them last time, you got to see them the next time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a fan, so it's kind of thing where
it's a scarcity.
It's not you don't want people to see you. You just want it to be a thing when you're playing. You know what I mean? And the thing is, you can never get tickets for those guys. Well, you can, but it's just kind of like you got to really want to get tickets. You got to want. It's not. You don't want people going, yeah, I got this ticket for the Jaguars. You want to go? No, not really. If you're putting crap on the field, you know, and I know I'm switching to Jaguars, but
no, that's right.
But it's like if Pearl Jam, you know, if they were not having success, like it's almost the point right now. There's certain acts, and I kind of call it the social distortion line, that I don't think social distortion will ever draw less than 1,000 people ever again. I just think that they have enough success, they can not put out anything and just go and tour, and they'll always have at least 1,000 fans.
That's kind of what I'm
in a
banking
market.
on.
Yeah, but that's a career. That's a real career.
Now, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying that I didn't tell them that, oh, you guys should always underplay, but they did. You know what I mean? They did underplay. They underplayed when they played Iguanas. They underplayed when they played Winters, which Winters was the building that Red Tape was in. That's why I sometimes say that and don't explain. But they underplayed when they played Red Tape. Then they underplayed. They played a Bacchanal show. What's funny is they played a show at the Bacchanal before they played our show at Red Tape, but it was with they were at Mookie Blaylock at the time. It was before they changed the name to Pearl Jam, and they were opening for Alice in Chains.
Wow.
No big deal.
But I'm saying, you know, the show was sold out and everything, and we went to the show and stuff and hung out. But it was kind of thing where it's like, you know, this was the first headlining show. It was off the single Alive and stuff. So, you know, but then they went and played Iguanas. That's an underplay at the time for them because the record had sold millions of copies at that point. And then I think the next time they played the Starlight, I think it was a Starlight. But anyways, and that's only like 3,000. I mean, they could have been playing arenas at that point.
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting perspective that I wouldn't have really thought about. It's like purposely underselling your shows.
When they were underselling it, were they jacking up the ticket prices too, or no?
No.
So
I like
But
that,
that's the
man.
thing.
That's
It's
like
one of
some
those
Willy
things-
Wonka shit. I like that a lot.
But it's one of those things where I sit there and go, I mean, that's the reason they were fighting with Ticketmaster so much, because they didn't like the fact their ticket prices were that high. And of course they could have lowered them and the Ticketmaster would still make all their money off their ridiculous high fees. But, I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's like, it's one of those things where I don't think, generally speaking, he thinks that, I don't think he thinks he has too much money, but I also think he definitely doesn't think he doesn't have enough money. You know what I mean? He's like sitting there going, I'm sure has a lot of people have that kind of success, just sit there some days and go, what the fuck happened?
yeah.
Look at this. This is insane.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just playing my songs. And I get to do all this extra stuff that I never would have. You get to meet all your heroes. You know what I mean? It's like
totally.
you get to work with them, literally. I mean, it's like everybody he's wanted to work with, he's worked with.
Totally.
I mean, he literally was a rigger on a show with, I think it was The Who, or it might have been Pink Floyd, but it was either The Who or Pink Floyd at Jack Murphy Stadium, and this was way before, when he was in Bad Radio, when he was local band and stuff, and he was a rigger there. It's like he did what I tell people all the time. I go, look, man, if you ask me who the hardest working musician I've ever been around, he probably is it, because he would put himself in places that he knew that there was a chance to get to meet somebody that could help him necessarily.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking business people. I'm talking about artists and stuff, and just tell him that the kind of fan he is and stuff like that. It's just, he's a good guy. So.
How much of that how much do you think was kind of going on like, maybe even not from his perspective, like the management and agent side of it, where it was like, we could play a bigger room, but our costs, like our overhead, might go up depending. So like the difference between like, this might be a big gap, but like when you put on a show at Jackrabbits versus putting on a show at St. Augustine Amphitheater, your overhead has got to be significantly higher at
like 100 times maybe.
Yeah. So how much of that from the business side do you think Pearl Jam was getting, saying, like, hey man, like, look at, if we sell the tickets at this price at this venue, it has this much more capacity, it's going to increase our overhead by this much, and you might not walk away, you actually might walk away with less money playing at the bigger venue.
But I don't think that ever, I really don't think that ever crossed their mind, because they weren't, it's different than being in a band like Skrillex, or I mean, that's not even a band, but something like that. In other words, where your production, it has to be huge.
Yeah.
They weren't U2. Even when they were playing to amounts of people like U2 played to, they never were like trying to make, like, to this day, it's a rock. They're like the Stones or something.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
a rock and roll band. Do they have a few things for show? Maybe, but most of the time, Pearl Jam's just Pearl Jam up there. Same band that was playing the clubs is still playing with a few extra members, a keyboard player, stuff that they didn't have before. But you don't see giant pyro. You don't see laser shows. I mean, it's just, that's not what they're about as far as I've seen and I could see. So I'm sitting here going, I don't think money ever crossed their mind. I think it was truly all, if we underplay a little bit, then our shows would be sold out. And what's better than having a sold out show? You know what I mean? It's like, that's what you want. You want the place to be full.
There's so many things that you said that I just want to put on a bumper sticker. Like, what's better than a sold out show? For sure, can sell a fucking
and
100
I'm
t-shirts
not
for
even the
sure.
freaking artist, but I've said this before to people in interviews. Okay, and I'm not even an artist, but I sit there and go, when I would have a sold out show at Freebird, and I'd go open that little crow's nest window right up there above the stage and see these people losing their minds and stuff, and it made me feel like holy shit, I had a part of this.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not there. They don't give a fuck. They don't even know who the hell I am. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But when you hear that roar of a crowd where it's like deaf, where it's probably hearing damage just from the crowd noise, that's the kind of show I sit there and go, yeah, man, that's no wonder you guys love playing sometimes. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, I mean, who wouldn't love that?
That's cool.
Who wouldn't love hearing people just love what you're doing.
Yeah, it's cool
Yeah.
from the other side of things that you're getting that like same I guess emotion that we
Yeah,
get
it's a
like
rush.
playing it that you do. 'Cause,
And they're
like,
not
I
even-
put this together.
Yeah,
But they
that's
are
the thing.
loving-
I help enable this to happen.
Exactly.
They're loving what you produced, which is the show, basically. You know,
And
so
it's
like
it's what would get me frustrated with some people, some club owners I've worked with, most club owners I've worked with over the years. It would frustrate me because they would either be rude to the artist or something, which I know even locally some club owners like that. But anyways, but it's kind of thing where I sit there and go, I'm always I bend over backwards to, especially the more tickets you're selling, the more I'm bending over backwards to go, I want the band to be happy when they walk out. I know they're going to be happy with attendance because it's sold out, but I want them to go, yeah, man, it sounded great. We had a great show, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not expecting it to be their best show of all time or their favorite show. I just want them to walk out going, yeah, man, that was cool. That was good.
totally.
So, and it's a failure if they sell it out and are totally pissed off when they leave the venue.
Man,
And it happens. Trust me, it's
Really?
happened at Freebird more than you can imagine. It happened at Mavericks almost every show
Well,
because the venue doesn't know how to.
yeah, that's
Anyways, like I said, I was trying not to
I
go
guess because
negative.
it's done, you can talk shit about it. But that Mavericks place, that was a weird.
But yeah, but it's
weird
because
venue.
it's
Did
'cause
you ever play there?
never played Mavericks.
Ugh,
No.
you're
they
lucky.
cared about the money they were making,
cared
but they
about
didn't
money,
care
that's
about the
it.
artist.
At all.
Well-
And the reality is most club owners are that way.
Yeah.
Most, not all. I mean, Jason's a musician. That's why he can be a club
Yeah.
owner, and
I love
everyone.
Jason's awesome.
Jason's
But
awesome,
but he, I guarantee you, he would sit there and go, "Yeah, man, it's hard because I want to sit there and say yes to all this stuff, and I can't because the reality of the business won't let me say yes to certain
Yeah.
things, and that's a regular thing, and it's a lot easier for him to tell you no than it is for me to tell you no because I'm not a fucking musician. He is. He's been where you're at. He understands, and you kind of would take it better from somebody that has been in your shoes. And I know we're not talking about anything in
You don't play
particular
nothing.
here.
You're not a musician at all.
Nah, I can play a little bit of guitar, but I don't play guitar. Like,
So
I've never played in a
crazy.
band, ever.
Just some of the people
And
that are in
I
the.
tell people I wouldn't want to put myself through that torture.
Yeah.
And you get up on stage, and if people don't like you, how's that for your self-esteem
Do you-
right there?
and that-
That's what happens all the
That's
time. I'm
tough.
the king of getting rejected my entire life. So being on stage and nobody liking me, easy.
Just another-
walk
just
in the
another-
park. It's another
It's just-
day, bud.
It's like, but it's like that unsuccessfulness though, is like you're like a comedian without all the chicks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Well,
Keep going. Yeah.
No, but
This is not front page news.
yeah.
No, but
Um,
seriously, I mean, Denver, my son is really good on stage, and it's one of those things where it's like, I have no idea where he got it from because people would ask me, "Hey, will you bring on the band?" I'm like, "Nope." I never want to even get out there. Period. I mean, the very little bit of fame that I'm not saying I've been famous necessarily, but being around people that have gotten ridiculously famous, like Eddie. I mean, the reality is, like, he did for the longest time have to go out in full disguise, and I'm talking fucking
Yeah.
mustaches, glasses, everything.
Yeah, that's
to be able to
wild.
go in public, and that's a scary motherfucking thing to be like.
Yeah, it'd be
I
pretty
mean,
crazy.
It's one of those, but it's kind of thing where I sit there and the little bits of stuff like that. I never want to be on stage. I just don't want to be on stage. I love being a part of it. I don't want to be out there. And so when I have this son that goes out there and, when he's 14, he gets up on stage in front of a sold out show and acts like he's been there his whole life. And I'm like, where do you get this confidence from?
It's gotta come from somewhere,
it
man.
blew my mind.
I will say this, that being in Jacksonville is where I started like my first real band, where I've been like gigging and traveling and doing the whole thing, where it wasn't like I was just a side guy not dealing with the business side of it. So I will say that in traveling a lot and meeting different promoters and venue owners, dealing with you is always super easy. And also I will say that something that kind of cemented this in it's kind of in my brain forever now was we did a show It was probably about 2 years ago now. I'm not going to mention what show or who else was involved, but what else?
See if I can guess it.
I know you can guess.
Was it
for
my
sure.
show?
It was
Okay.
your but
Right,
but I
cool.
don't want to say any more than that. Though.
No.
But I will say is that we put in some work on the ground for you guys and sold tickets. And when your partner didn't want to pay us, you showed up and you're like, no, you pay them because this is what they did. And I was like, that is a solid guy right there, because like
Yeah.
you could have like I know for a fact that you guys probably lost money on that show.
Sure.
And you were still like, pay the band, man.
Like, you gotta- yeah, you gotta
and,
give
and
them
it was
some-
like, and I just when I was watching that, and I was like, this is a person that you want to work
A
for.
deal's a deal is the way I look at it. And it's
Yeah.
like I've done shows, where, again, when I started doing shows, there was no such thing as email. Like, we didn't do emails to agents. We got on the phone, talked to them, talked about the show, talked about the deal, and then all of a sudden I would get in the mail a big, long contract with a bunch of carbon paper behind it with a bunch of other sheets. And William Morris were notorious for their super long contracts.
Right.
Literally, it was the most god-awful size paper that
With a
you've
bunch
seen.
of bullshit in there that no one expects you to fulfill.
But it's like, then you get that, then you have to sign it really hard because it's got to go through all the copies. And then you got to mail it back, or you keep one copy yourself, mail it back. You never ended up getting it back signed from them because why? Why would they sign it?
Right.
I mean, they only want you to sign it, but if they don't sign it, then they can get out of plan.
Exactly. They're not accountable.
Yeah, and that happens to this day.
Yeah.
I very rarely get contracts back, even if I send them in like right away after getting them. If I sign them and send them in,
Nothing.
I sometimes I get them back after the show. Sometimes I get them back before the show, but very rarely before the show.
Wow.
And it's like, but yeah, you got. I mean, a deal's a deal. You got to. The thing that gets really scary about the ticket sale thing, and it's funny because every once in a while, I'll put a local band opening for a national that's a slam dunk show. It's not even, we don't, I could get up there with a kazoo and the show's going to be sold out no matter who's opening. So, and then the band will go, hey, can we get some pre-sale tickets? And I'm like, oh, no offense, but I don't really want you selling pre-sale tickets for this because it's going to all sell online anyways.
Word, yeah.
But I'll go, yeah, man. You do the same deal on the pre-sale tickets, blah, blah. And I'll give them 50. Okay, we sold all 50. Can we get? No, that's it. We only budgeted $250 or whatever we did for support. So
Yeah, when I was kind of with coming up with Lucky Costello, we would do that with Perpetual Grew.
yeah,
And
Peter
that's,
Drew.
that's gonna sell, and we're gonna open it, and it's like, can we get pre-sale tickets? It would
Yeah.
easiest thing in the world
Easy
to
sell.
sell
Yeah.
themselves. But
Yeah.
thanks for that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just saying that, there's been shows where I have a $500 guarantee to a band,
Yeah.
and they go, well, just get some local bands to open up. I'm like, yeah, but you don't seem to understand the point. If I get 3 local bands that draw 150 total between them, and you guys only draw 30 or 40
I don't need
for your
you.
$500 guarantee, I go, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I do, and I tell bands this all the time. I go, look, if I'm asking you to open for a national act, you probably should do it most of the time, unless you have like a show that same weekend or something like that. I tell them that because I go, look, I can't tell you how many bands I've seen play to 13 people and Incubus. I mean, it's like I can sit there and just name band after band that played in front of nobody hardly the first time through.
Incubus played to
Yeah,
nobody?
Incubus played at Jackrabbits, I think the first month we were open. And
99?
Chris Bolin was there, and like a handful of other people. Because it's funny, when he worked for me for a little while, he was like, yeah, I was at the Incubus show. I'm like, you were one of the few, man.
20 people oh my God.
And it's
That's
just
crazy.
like crazy. I mean, John Mayer, played Jackrabbits early on too, like that. And
Wild.
I mean, but John Mayer had like over 100 people at least. But
Yeah.
still, it's kind of like, I sit there and go, if I'm asking you over for a national act, it's not always because I know you're going to draw enough people where I can pay them. Because there's another promoter in town, or you call him promoter or not, but that used to do a little club out on Beach Boulevard that's what he did. You know what I mean? He'd pay the band, some new metal band, at, $1,500, $2,000 national
I
act.
think I know which place you're talking
And
about.
then he would turn around and get 5 bands to commit to 50 tickets apiece, and then that's covering the guarantee of the headliner. It's like, dude, the guarantee of the headliner should be covered by the fucking headliner.
Yeah, by the headliner, yeah.
And if
wild.
it's not, then it's wrong. Something's wrong. The deal's wrong.
Yeah.
It's
I
like-
think it's a bagel place
but
now.
but with all that said, if you find yourself in that situation where shit, man, the headliner didn't draw, all the locals did draw, you can't turn around and go, sorry guys, I have to pay the headliner $1,500 tonight, and so I can only pay you $1 a ticket now instead, or something like that.
Yeah.
You have to pay the band what you told them you're going to pay.
Deal's a deal.
And guess what? If you take it on the chin, you take it on the chin. It sucks.
Yeah.
That's why I'm poor and I wear flip flops to interviews. Seriously, because I sit there and I count on one hand bands that think that I didn't pay them.
So
I'm not talking about bands that like go to Jackrabbits, play a show, drew 4 people and didn't pick up their $8 and then got all mad because they never picked up their money. It's like, pick it up. It's in the night. Go by the door. The door guy's still sitting there. Go ask him, do we make any money tonight? That's all you got to say.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say, hey, we're supposed to get this or we're supposed to get that. Just ask him. You know, when you leave and you don't pick up your money, I just sit there and go, nobody in the band thought to ask the door guy.
Yeah.
Nobody did? Seriously?
I will say those are mistakes I made early on as well, because nobody told me I was supposed to ask the door guy, or nobody. So
Yeah,
there's
I
a lot
get
of
it.
things.
No, I
you know,
understand. I'm just-
but not saying. I love working with you. I'm just saying there's
some
things,
bands though. I swear to God, there's some bands that happened with or something, and then I'd say, okay, from now on, please just ask the door guy at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a bank and sit here and hold your money, and then when you come by and come withdraw it. I go,
Right.
I just really want you to pick it up that night. And besides, if they leave it there long enough, it'll screw my taxes up. But anyways,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I
it will. But it's like I can't put it in the bank because it's not my money.
Right.
Anyways, but there's been a couple bands that literally just repeated offenders where I'm just like, all right, you guys, I don't care if you get paid then.
Yeah, you don't deserve it,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's like if you're not going to pick up your money, then you must not care about it that much. You know?
So, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
I know we gotta.
No,
we
no,
gotta,
I was just
sorry.
wondering what.
No,
don't worry
bro.
about it.
This has been amazing. I love all this information. But so I'm really passionate about the grind of an original band versus the grind of a bar band. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because I kind of came up in the blues scene where that distinction's not made, and the blues crowd's kind of like just waiting for something to happen, versus the original music grind where it's like, you take tickets and you keep track of your numbers, and you
They're your
track your
fans.
growth
Yeah.
in certain markets, and it's a whole business. So and my whole goal with this podcast and just with what I'd like to do as an artist myself is try and inform up and coming bands about the differences in those grinds, and why being in the bar scene, like a local bar scene, can kill your growth in the long run. Even though you're getting paid guarantees up front, and it seems like you make more money at first, but in the long run, like for instance, if you, let's say you have a major headlining act coming to 1904 or Jackrabbits or something,
Right.
and it's going to be a sellout show.
Right.
There's a band locally that has some original tunes. Maybe they've reached out to do some shows or whatever. If they're playing 3 nights a week, is that going to be the band that you hit up to open up for them?
No, and the reason why is because, and I've told so many bands this. I go, look, I think it's all good and smart for your band to play cover band gigs and do those gigs and get paid that money. I totally get it. Change the name of your original act.
That's what we did.
Don't go around playing under the same name, because I don't give a shit about the band that plays at Cheers every fucking weekend.
That's true.
I just
he's really
don't.
enjoying
I
this
love
one.
it.
But I don't, because the reality is, like, that band is playing for the bar's crowd. They're not playing for their crowd.
Right.
I can tell you how you can tell. Let's set up a show with them at Rain Dogs and see how many people they draw.
Right.
Let's set up a show with them at 1904 on a Tuesday night. See how many of that bar crowd from Cheers comes in. None.
Yeah,
None.
exactly.
First
They're not
off,
following the band. They're following the bar.
Exactly, and they're not going to show up to hear your
Right.
music. They're going to show up to hear the covers that you've been playing for the last 4 hours. Also,
And there's a good not compromise, but meld too sometimes. And festivals tend to show the most obvious part of it, whereas bands do draw at festivals, but the festival itself is the draw.
oh yeah,
But it's because of the social thing. And again, the reason my favorite club probably ever I booked was Red Tape and that Winters building was because it had several things going on at the same time in a club atmosphere. And Scream was like that too in LA. I mean, it was like there was a band room that held like 600-700 people. There was a room upstairs that was all videos and just fucking crazy ass shit going on up there. There was an alley where a lot of nothing happened in the alley, but there was it just was a cool atmosphere and vibe. And we would go hang out at Scream and be like, God damn, it's crowded tonight. Who's playing? Oh, I heard the Cult's going to play tonight. Oh, cool. You know what I mean? We didn't know.
Right.
We paid $15 to get in. Some nights we paid $25 to get in, and we never asked who was playing. We just didn't care.
Right.
That was the place to be.
That's how it was at Freebird. Like every day of the night, I was like, I'm just going there.
It could be a scene, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
unfortunately,
why I love so much about that
it
place.
could have been a better scene there, but
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'm not trying to slam Freebird because I really enjoy it.
was
And
the
if
best
Judy
place
Van
ever.
Zandt didn't lay down her money to do that club, Jacksonville's music scene would have suffered
Judy's
enormously
such a sweetheart too.
compared.
To me, she was.
She's a great lady.
Yeah.
She actually is, though. She's a good person. It's
No,
just
I
one of those
know.
things where it's, again, I like I said, the artist is the reason we're all there ultimately, and
Yeah.
you really need to, and she doesn't need to because, again, she's not here. She doesn't have her success and her money because of the artist that played Freebird necessarily. So that's kind of why that attitude can pervade in a place like that.
I understand.
So I kind of wanted to, yeah. I mean, sometimes the
And I
promoters.
loved that place. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
I
it's
loved
my
doing
favorite.
shows there. I loved most everything about it. But there was issues with bar staff, and there was issues with that didn't have to be that way.
It was really funny when it was like, okay, this is the last week here, and the bartenders were like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I got a lot of free drinks. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
Well-
and a lot of them didn't give a fuck way before
Yeah.
that.
Might have been the downfall.
So
Still.
unfortunately, there's sometimes the promoters and interests and the club owners' interests don't align, and that's
Yeah.
gonna kind of just be and even both can be great people, but sometimes your interests aren't aligned, and that's
Well, because the agents rely on people like me to, when the Freebird closes, to, okay, where do we play now in that market?
right.
They don't sit there and go, they don't know. They're not going to know. You know what I mean? Oh, we don't want to do Jackrabbits. Okay. Well, how about 1904? Wasn't that same size? Well, it's a little bit bigger. Well, we need to go bigger. Okay. Well, it's Ponte Vedra Concert Hall. Oh, that's too big. I mean,
Right.
honestly, it's kind of like conversations I've had last week.
What's the capacity at Ponte Vedra Concert Hall?
900.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then 1904.
Now they're seated.
Or
No, 1904 was selling out at 400. I don't
Yeah.
know what after the pandemic. Jason seemed to think it's going to be more like 300 now.
Okay.
But who knows? I know that if and when, which I think they are for sure doing it, but it'll be a great thing if the entire industry's back open up. Underbelly is going to see some enormous success.
That's right. Yeah.
because of the size.
Yeah, he's been working his ass
But that's
off
what I'm
to
saying.
get
If
that
we have a
started out.
500 to, and if that capacity is legally at least 500, then, you're talking 600 tickets on a sellout or whatever, including comps and all that stuff. But you're talking about the Freebird again, except downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you don't have the walk up that you would have at the beach, but you still, you also don't have to deal. Well, maybe they'll jump in the river and it'll be worse. But the amount of bands, national acts that I had agents call me the next day, my fucking lead singer almost died at your venue. I'm like, no, he didn't. Yeah, he went across the street in the middle of the night, drunk off his ass, and was swimming in the ocean off the pier, jumped off the pier. I'm like, dude, I can't help it. What do you want me to do?
That's natural
Yeah.
selection, bud.
That's but yeah, I think that having a room between 500 and 700
Critical.
is going to really help to build the Jacksonville scene.
Well, it's
honestly,
critical. It's critical. There isn't one at all.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like there was a church that's for sale that we were seriously looking at. Like we had just found it maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the pandemic started, and we were doing a little bit of due diligence on it and stuff like that, and talking to people that have said that they would invest in heavy hitter investments, and obviously pandemic happened, and I'm like, Ann was like, well, what do you think about that? And I'm like, I think nothing. I think I'm not doing anything as far as trying to open something new. That's why I
That's what
respect
I was gonna ask
if
you,
they
yeah.
get that open underbelly really quick after it's all over. But it's like I wouldn't be upset with them if they don't, because shit, everybody right now is just going, man, I hope we all come out of this on the other side, and we're
Yeah.
all going, yeah, I still do shows, or I do this, or I do that. Because a lot of us, a lot of people are just going to be like, forget it.
Totally, man.
No, he's gung ho about it because
I know he's gung ho about it, but it's kind of a matter of it's a rental thing for them unless they have a deal to buy the building somehow. Because I think they own the building that 1904 is in.
I'm not sure.
I think they do. I for some reason think they do. I don't think I know they. I don't imagine they own the corner building where they put Spliffs now, but I have
No
a feeling
idea.
that 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 1904, the building and the place where Spliffs used to be, I think that him and Dwayne and them bought that building, I think. So, I mean, to me, I sit there and go, which is great because they'll likely survive no matter how bad it gets for a while. You know, like that's the reason Jackrabbits can stick around right now is because, you know, my wife owns the building at this point, and it's like, you know, we don't have to. There's nothing to default on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Granted, we may if the entire thing got shut down again, I'd literally just say tell GA turn off the power and let's just keep it dark until someday we can open it again. You know?
So
And
sad.
but most places can't do that because they're paying rent. I mean, Christina Wagner, she's stressing up the wazoo, and I don't blame her. And that's expensive real estate. She's having to pay rent there, whether she is busy or not. You know, and so it's like
Yeah, it's crazy.
same with the guys at Archetype. I mean, the reality is that's a rent. That's not. They don't own it, so.
But Connor's
get
doing
kicked
a
out.
fantastic job of keeping
They're
everybody
doing-
safe and doing everything he can to keep that place open.
Yeah, that's what
and-
I'm saying. I'm stoked at how little is really actually closed.
Yeah.
You know, so
There was a couple more things I wanted to touch on before we have to start wrapping it up. But so you mentioned something about like well, just either way, I want to kind of like know from a promoter's perspective, and since you seem to be a fan of music, when you walk into a show, first off, when you put on a show, especially a bigger show, are there details that you're going to pay attention to because you were a fan first versus like somebody who comes into the promotion game is trying to make money?
wow, that's a good question. If you're talking about a big show, I mean,
Yeah.
no, not
Or a
really,
festival
not
or something.
Yeah, because the thing is, you can't keep an eye on all of it. It's-
Yeah.
I mean, that's truly you hoping that people like Les Targonsky, which was our production manager for the longest time at Freebird, but does Danny Wimmer's festivals for him now. But he's, you know, that's where you have to count on people like that, where you just go, I've hired one of the best people I know that has done this countless times, and I got to rely on him that, yeah, man, it's all going smooth, or no, this shit's fucked up. What, you know, okay, Les, what can I do to help? What can I, you know, and, you know, luckily at like the amphitheater, those guys, you know, when they're not doing one of my shows, they're doing a show for AG or Live Nation or what. In other words, they're pros, period. They're pros. We pay them like pros. Trust me. It's like when I get the expenses, I just sit there and go, holy shit, how much did we pay for security tonight? But the reality is they do it right. It's a great venue because of the, I mean, the difference, I tell agents all the time, I go, it's not that I hate Shad Khan or I hate, you know, the stadium there or anything, but that's a shit ass excuse for an amphitheater. Dailies is.
Really?
I mean, I've been, I've only been to 4 shows there.
I haven't been to
All
one, so I
4
don't
shows
know.
sounded like ass. Sounded
Yeah.
like the Milk Bar back in the day. Sounded like Mavericks did when it was bad. There was times we had plenty of shows at Mavericks that sounded good.
Yeah,
and I know what you're saying. Mainly the problem with Mavericks was there was too many different sound companies coming in there all the time, and
Yeah.
you know, when we had Bill Parker stuff in there regularly, and it was the same people and same, you know, we had a string of shows that production wise, sound wise, they were good. But unfortunately, the whole club was a clusterfuck all the time. So it wasn't always a production issue. It would be very much so at Mavericks a bar staff issue or a security issue or whatever. It was a clusterfuck. So at Mavericks, I would walk in to answer your question, and I would walk in and go, and I'd joke around to whoever was doing the door for me. I'd go, well, let's see what happens tonight. Because every night there would be something, including a drunk club owner in the dressing room with the band just wanting to meet him or something. And I'm
And
like,
you're just like, fuck.
don't fucking go in the band's dressing room, you dumbass. I don't go in the band's dressing room. I'm fucking paying the band at the end of the night, and I'm not going in the dressing room unless they invite me.
Right.
Or unless I knock, at least say, hey, guys, I'm looking for so-and-so. I am very, very aware that there's plenty of things that go on in dressing rooms that I don't want to know about.
Right.
And even if I did want to know about them, it's not my right. That's their little spot on the road that they should expect privacy.
Yeah. Totally.
So anyway, but it's one of those things where, you know, there's different places, you know, different, you know, Freebird ended up being almost similar to Jackrabbits. Rob is great at Jackrabbits, and bottom line is it's real small and real easy to, Rob says it is. That's what it is. It's what I mean, it's easy and it sounds great.
Rob is the man. I love Rob.
It's just
man.
one of those things where it's a great sounding room and it's just a little rock box and it's easy and it's like Lee does it every night, Rob does it every night, so it's kind of like it's just like unless you're coming in with something that we've never seen, like a 3-headed horse on stage, you know what I mean? It's like we're not gonna sit there and go no, but we're also anyways, but it's just different. Every single show is, or every single venue is different. And
right.
I mean, 1904 seems to be run well. I hate their entrance. It's scary. I wish so bad they would change it somehow, where you didn't bottleneck at the front door.
Yeah, you get a little bit stuck in there, and there's I know what you mean.
But I love the venue itself. I mean, I love
great.
the height of the ceiling because you can have a great light show there. It's virtually impossible at a place like Jackrabbits or Rain Dogs or anything like that to have a real big feeling. Like you can look at a video of 1904 on the stage from the back of the room, and you're like, it could be the Freebird or it could be bigger even.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It looks big.
It looks big. Yeah.
You never would guess that room was that small if you were just looking at the video of that shot, and that's awesome. That's awesome.
Totally. So one last thing before we wrap it up and we get to unpopular opinions. Is there any advice you can give to up-and-coming bands that are trying to reach out and play a show or just trying to develop themselves in the market?
It used to be say yes more than no. I guess it still would be say yes more than no. In other words, you're never going to get anything if you say no to stuff. I mean, you're just not going to get anywhere. You know what I mean? It's like, now I understand, a band that's been around and, drawing 1,000 people, and if I'm asking them to play a 200 capacity club, I'm saying no, I get that. But generally speaking, you should say, why do you want us to play a 200 capacity club again? Oh, because so-and-so owns it, Eddie Vedder owns that club. Oh, shit, I mean, I'm not saying he owns a club. I'm just saying it could be a reason why I'm asking them to do something that I wouldn't normally ask them to do. So I say yes before.
So yes, I love what you said earlier about like if I am offering you to open up for a national act, take it.
Yeah.
Right, because
Just
even if
take
it's
it.
not a big, you may not know who the act is.
Yeah.
I mean, when I managed Silent Treatment, and then the band ended up doing a different singer and call themselves If Tomorrow, changed the name, blah, blah, blah. But they opened for Smashing Pumpkins, and it was at the Casbah, which was real small. It was like half the size of Jackrabbits at the time.
Wow.
Because they had 2 locations. The first one was like 75 capacity. The next one was like 200 something capacity. But this was at the 75 capacity club. And I'm like, and I remember James, the bass player, said, Smashing Pumpkins, why, really? You think we should open for these guys? Or, who are they? Blah, blah. And I'm like, they're going to be huge, man. And he's like, and this is me as their manager. So they, of course, did the show. And it was hilarious because they did a flyer that said, If Tomorrow with Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, boy.
But it didn't matter. The show was sold out. But it was like, and the band became huge and stuff. And it was kind of like, and this other band, Ghoul Spoon, that was a local band that I did not manage, but they were like, the running joke near the end of that band was if you're an up-and-coming band that's signed to a record label or a national act, open for Ghoul Spoon. You'll be huge because like Deftones opened for them, Korn opened for them. All these bands would open for them. And it'd be like Ghoul Spoon would headline and pack out the club. And then everyone would be like, did you see that band right before Ghoul Spoon? Korn, they were
so
killer.
funny.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I did 15 shows with Korn before they got the record deal.
No
basically.
shit.
Yeah.
Holy
It's
cow.
kind of like, when you see something that you're like, this is going to be big, you try to work with as much as possible.
Totally. Well,
Some good advice, Tim.
But
Yeah.
I'm saying, in other words, there's plenty of times where it's national act, and I know they're not going to draw,
yeah.
and I'm booking them for a reason. I don't always sit there and go, if an agent tells me out of this band, if I don't think they're that good, I mean, sometimes I'll book them still, but most of the time I'll go, no, we're just pass or whatever. You know what I mean? But the thing is, when nobody's heard of the band at all, and I'm booking them, generally speaking, if they're not from Jacksonville, you probably should just say, well, they're a national act, blah, blah. Let's do some more homework on them. Oh, so-and-so's working with them. That's why. So-and-so produced them,
yeah, you hooked us up with you put us in one time with a band called Opposite Box from Chattanooga, and I've maintained a great relationship with them ever since. It wasn't a great. We didn't bring a bunch of people out, but I mean,
and they're not huge. But
they're not big, but I mean, you had shown us their credentials, and they opened up for like lettuce and
Yeah.
did a bunch of stuff. And I was like, as I talked to my manager, he was like, "What do you think about this?" And I was like, "Well, we should probably do that just because they seem to be in the same vein. They're from a market that we want to break into." And we might be able to get some people out
swap
for them.
some shows, yeah.
Swap some shit. And we haven't done anything since, but I've been in contact with them, and we've become good friends since that show. So there's been plenty of you had us open up for Kung Fu, which was a lot of fun. I mean, for me
Good
it was
band.
again, it wasn't a great night, but
Yeah.
but I mean,
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
But
That's-
for me, like I get to meet Tim Palmieri. He's like one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and like it was just, and we got to play, just make that connection. And it was just
and
cool.
sometimes, and this one thing I'll tell bands to the day I die, it's like play the show like it might be your last show, because it might be your last show,
Yeah.
first of all. But you don't know who's in the audience. It could be somebody that can enormously help you take your music to the
Be
next
Trent
level.
Reznor.
It could be anybody, though.
Yeah,
Seriously.
You never know.
Totally.
I mean, people, are in the back of the room. Sometimes you just don't even know who they could be texting somebody like, "You got to see this band in San Diego."
Absolutely.
Jacksonville,
Never know.
whatever.
Absolutely.
So
All right, well, we gotta get to unpopular opinions.
Yeah, 'cause
So-
someone's got to go to work.
Someone's got to go to work.
I work night shift.
where are you working?
Right from here.
What where are you working? at?
Actually, yeah, you were with. Did you have USAA home insurance?
Yeah,
I work
I
for
have
you.
you work for USA.
Yeah,
It's the best insurance company out there for
There
the most
is,
part.
especially if you're in the
I
military.
have auto insurance through 'em. I don't know if we have our home insurance.
That's what I do. I do emergency mitigation claims for USAA. Over
That's-
8:30 to 6:30.
My
Great job for a
my
musician.
brother-in-law on my wife's side, he works in Tampa for. I think he's still working for USA.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Nice.
It's a good job. I've been doing it for 10 years, and
I've had it. My dad was military, and I'm military. Yeah, ex-military. So it's the kind of thing where I had it all my life because
can get
that's kind of what they started out as basically. But now they're fucking mammoth.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
enormous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm well aware.
Sorry.
I'll be busy tonight.
I'm glad you got a job.
Thank you.
That's better than a lot of people
What's
right
funny
now.
is I
Yeah.
work from home as the pandemic happened. I was like, oh, I got to work from home now. I'm like, nothing has changed.
Yeah, that's good for you. Yeah,
exactly
totally.
the same.
All right, so my first unpopular opinion, and this is not a jab at you, Tim, but sandals as actual footwear
No, it's okay.
is
These are
stupid.
flip-flops.
Yeah, well, so here's here's why I'm saying sandals as actual footwear is stupid, is because one night when I was, it ended up being the morning by this point, and I had taken some fun things like hallucinogens. and-
Seaweed?
Yeah, seaweed. And we were walking up to a McDonald's. I didn't have any shoes on me, and I was like, it said shoes and shirt required to walk in here. And I'm like, if I walked in with sandals, which is literally a piece of rubber
Yep.
that stands
With a
between
strap.
me and the floor, then what is the difference between me walking in here barefoot and that? So anyways, to me, there's no
Wasn't it
difference.
a hygiene thing though?
Yeah, but
as
I
far
mean,
as
it's just
as
like,
far as they're concerned.
I guess, but it's like a piece. But it's like my foot is completely exposed.
Tim, these
Yeah,
are,
totally.
These are unpopular.
Yeah,
things.
Yeah, that's right. That's
It's-
right.
it's a piece
I'm
of-
right. I'm not on
I'm-
his
I'm
side.
listening.
It's a piece of rubber between my foot and the floor. It
Uh-huh.
just, and maybe you
And
don't
your
know.
underwear is just a bunch of cotton between your dick and the rest of the world.
Yeah, but then I have clothes on top of that. These are all true statements. We should be a news colony. Let's
Well,
just do that.
Okay. My first unpopular opinion is I love folding clothes. I'm the only man that loves doing laundry. I don't know what
You're
the
probably the
deal
only.
is.
I don't think that anybody loves doing laundry.
You love
but-
folding clothes?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just it's my mind's going a mile a minute all the time, and I can finally just zone out and do something just repetitive. And if I wasn't a musician, I'd be a great machinist. I'll tell you that much.
What do you play? Drums?
Piano.
Piano? Now,
bud.
okay. Duh. Now, do you do any other kind of art?
No, I'm actually really bad at everything else. I'm really good
He's
at
not very creative.
Because I would think
video
you'd
editing.
be really, if you like folding clothes and that actually calms you down.
I'm good at
sorta,
origami. I
I
can
would
do that
think
too.
that anything like you could be a good optometrist or not, whatever optician. The guys that do the little screws and put your glasses and shit.
Yeah, that
I would
like
think you'd be good at that.
I can
Because it's a focus thing. It's
Yeah, I can
totally.
make like the
Tedious, but focused.
world's
Yeah.
tedious stuff like that. I love that for some reason. I can make you like the world's smallest origami crane.
Now, do you smoke a lot of weed?
I don't smoke any weed.
The thing is, my old roommate, the singer of If Tomorrow, the band after the Silent Treatment. Anyways, that's what he did. He worked for like one of the big companies, like Pearl Vision or something. but that's what he did. He fucking fixed people glasses all day. He would leave the house completely baked. At lunch, he'd get baked again, go back into work, finish. I mean,
I could do that all day.
He said because it made him really good at that, basically, because everything else nothing was happening around him.
That was another one of my unpopular opinions. Is I love building IKEA furniture. I could do that all day too.
That's what I mean. That takes a special skill, though.
I could be. Yeah, I could be a factory
to
worker for sure.
You don't.
There's really no
you might
creative thought
think
involved.
I don't know what skill that is though.
It's focus though. It's being able to be focused.
How am I focused?
Attention to detail.
Yeah, I have that, but it's just ironic because like my brain is just like.
But that's all
like
they yell at you in the military when you're coming in boot camp and shit. All they scream at you all day long. Attention to detail.
Oh, I would feel like a circle peg and a round hole in the military too, for sure.
Right.
But I just.
But not an attention to detail part.
Yeah.
Well, it's Billy's not a very creative guy for a musician, But I mean, it's okay. What are you gonna do? It's
Pretty
you give him the
creative.
instructions, he'll nail it.
Yeah, I will
But
nail
if it takes any kind of like creative thought on how to get from point A to point B,
Yeah.
not gonna get to point B. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I get out myself. All right, so my second unpopular opinion is if you listen to an audiobook, it does not mean that you read the book. Let's just be clear about that.
I mean,
you didn't read the book, but yes, you did, sort of.
Yeah, what is
You
a book?
listened
What is
to
a
the
book?
book.
What is the book made out of?
It doesn't matter.
What is it made out of? It's made out of words, right?
Right.
So then you hear the words.
But
How's that different
reading
than
is a
looking at
skill
the
set.
words?
Reading is it's like, okay, well, if I listen to this record, did I play the record?
Huh?
If I listen to a record, did I play the record?
What does that mean? Do you play
Yeah,
the
I'm
record?
confused
Yeah,
on that a
you
little
press
bit.
play on the record, and then it plays the record.
And I listened to the record, but I didn't
Yeah.
play.
You didn't play
the
on
music
it,
on the
of course
record.
not.
Okay, but it's
That's
like,
different than what he said.
So are you saying if you read the book, you wrote it too? What's
Yeah,
wrong
that
with
was
you,
a bad
man?
analogy,
Yeah, it was
maybe.
bad.
Right. But if you listen to audiobook,
You read it.
then and you're listening to exactly the same words that are written for the book.
Yeah.
Then you've kind of read it.
I think
how
you've
are you
heard
gonna
it.
tell that to
I think
blind?
you've heard the
How are you
book.
gonna tell that to blind people?
I wish Ann was
read
here, my
Braille.
wife, because she reads like ridiculous amount of books a day.
Yeah.
I mean, she reads all the time.
I don't know.
Well,
Unpopular opinion. That was a
It
good
is an
one.
popular opinion.
I'm like Trump. I'm not a reader.
Yeah,
I don't read a lot.
I'm not
I
a reader
don't
either.
read a
I'm
lot.
not a big reader either, but I'm just saying
Wait,
reading
don't
is
you
a
guys
skill
read?
set.
My wife reads all the time.
Oh, that's
All
good.
I'm saying is reading is a skill set, and listening is a different skill set.
I
Listening.
think reading is definitely a skill set, and
Yeah.
I agree with you that listening is a different skill set. I just don't know if I'm ready to buy into the you didn't read the book because you didn't use your eyes, you use your ears.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
listened to the book. You didn't read
You
the
did.
book.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
I guess.
yeah, that's a tough one.
It's the
That's
attention,
a good one.
It's the attention to detail, Bill. That I know you're not there yet, but
That's
we'll
a
get
good
you-
I'm
unpopular.
okay with attention to
Yeah.
detail.
I know. I'm just fucking. With you.
My second one is cockroaches aren't that disgusting.
They are that disgusting.
Have you squished them many cockroaches?
Yeah,
They're really
like
gross.
1,000 of them because ever
They're
since I moved
gross.
from
They have
Kentucky to Florida.
That amber-looking gut stuff that
Yeah,
squeezes out. It's
I'm right
gross.
there with you. It's just that people
hate
are
roaches
like
so
are
much.
saying that.
Yeah, I'm not into roaches at all.
I'm not into it. I'm just like it's just another bug to me. But like my girlfriend is like terrified of them. He's hilarious when you put one around him. He just freaks out. I'm just like it's just another bug. I'll kill
I
it.
can't do roaches, man. They're disgusting.
How are they any different than any other bug? I just don't get it.
What about Madagascar roaches and
What-
stuff like that?
what are those?
Hissing
Those
roaches?
giant ones.
Fucking give
Planet
me a tennis
Radio.
racket. It's
we did,
over.
We did a show with Queens of the Stone Age, and they did a contest where they bought some of the Madagascar roaches and had people eat them to win tickets. And
Oh,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
you
I'm
guys
not
are-
gonna
fucking
eat
Fear
one.
Factor shit.
I'm not gonna
Like, you
eat
guys
one.
are
I'm just
crazy.
not scared of them.
Look,
I'm just like.
You know what's so
bye.
disgusting about them is that they look gross, number one, but number two, they're the fastest animal on the planet.
They're
if you
fast.
take off, if you account
Fast.
for
And they
the-
can
for the
fly.
size, and they can fly, but they're the if you
that's big.
if you take into account their size, right, and you scale it to scale, they're the fastest animal on
Do
the
they
planet.
bite?
Did you know that?
I don't think they bite.
So
though.
why are you?
No,
what are
they,
you
no,
afraid
no,
of?
They're gross.
No, check this out. Look,
That's what I
look,
mean, they're not
look
gross.
it up.
I think
look
they're
it
gross.
up.
I don't
When
think
you're
they're gross.
sleeping,
That's why it's an unpopular.
no,
opinion.
here's why they're also gross. Is when you're sleeping, they actually eat your fingernails and your eyelashes. Do you know?
What a bunch of good
What?
guys. You know what I mean?
You're saying roaches eat stuff when they're
If
I had a roach-
statistically speaking, I think something like between 25 and 50% of the people that live today have had a roach crawl in their mouth while they're sleeping.
I don't believe
How
that
do
at
you
all.
prove that?
Yeah.
Just saying, it was a study that was done.
These are
They
good,
say
these are
it.
good ones.
Ask Trump. They
I-
said it. They said it.
I've
The
heard.
Trumps.
People have told me.
People have told me.
I've heard.
I've heard. You just said it. That's why you heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
You heard yourself.
Me and Donnie don't talk anymore.
I'm sorry.
What's your last one?
My last one is I cannot stand the way that sage smells.
Yeah, hippies, man. That's
Yeah.
a rough one.
Well, that's
too.
just- yeah.
Especially when you guys play in bands that draw a lot of hippies.
Jam
bro.
bands, yeah.
I'm just so not.
He's
a hippie by
alienating
any-
all of our fans constantly.
I'm a Grateful Dead fan. I don't like the way I don't like the way sage smells.
Patchouli oil. Do you love that?
No.
No.
Yeah, patchouli oil is bad too, man.
That's
It's
the
like,
worst. Like I didn't put any deodorant on today, but I did.
I
grab
doused
a bunch
myself.
Of patchouli
I poured a bunch of
oil.
patchouli oil all over my shoulders.
Terrible.
I had a roommate that did that, and a girlfriend actually. Woof.
All right. So what's your last one?
Last one is Riverside is better than the beach. You heard it here
Truth.
first.
Truth.
I went back to the beach this weekend. I was just like, I don't know. I just moved from the beach. I lived there for 15 years, and then I'm just like, I just moved here in March.
Now,
I like it.
if money was an option, which would you rather live at? Though?
Ooh, the beach.
Right. So the beach is better.
I'm
No,
100%
It just
Same.
depends on your financial status
I'm
on whether.
teasing. I'm
I would
teasing.
100%
It is
live
pretty
in
crazy
Riverside.
that I've got
Really?
Oh yeah.
With all the money, no, money's not an option.
I like my whole philosophy is everyone needs a little seed in their life. You know what I mean?
No.
Keeps you on your toes. It adds a little bit of character to who you are. I feel you got to be exposed to a little seed in your life. Riverside
Oh, it's
has the
seedy.
nice big
Yeah.
homes, but also it's got a little
all
seed.
the
it's definitely
music,
got
all the
seeds.
music
Got a little
venues
seed.
are here. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, there's no good.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's
It's
no
like-
good place to
it's
see
like-
original music at the beach. Except for, no, Blue Jay Listening Room. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Except
I
for Blue
always
Jay
say
Listening
that.
Room.
Yeah.
But you're not exactly going to see Korn there.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? You're not going to see a loud rock and roll band.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're going to see a couple loud bands.
and
occasionally there.
I got a
generally
two-story house to
speaking.
myself for $900 a month.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm not saying that with money being a factor, that Riverside isn't better. It's
Yeah.
way better.
But I like it. I actually just like it a lot. Is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I feel like even though there's crime, there's way more crime at the beach than there is out here in Riverside, I
I
believe.
don't know about that.
I know
but
there's crime out here, but it just feels different.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
the beach gives me the beach has got like a I don't know, just in general. I just don't like the beach. I'm not into the
The
fratty
crime
college
is no
crowd.
rhyme or reason at the beach, whereas the crime in Riverside, if you're a total, clueless person or something, sometimes you more victims. in
Yeah.
Riverside.
Totally.
The beach, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They'll just
Yeah.
rob anybody.
I feel that.
Well, Tim, what's your last?
Yeah.
On the last one.
I'm gonna say the one that I said earlier, which is before we went on the air. Hot dogs are motherfucking sandwiches.
yeah, I would agree with
If
that.
the hot dog is on a hot dog bun, it's a
Yeah.
sandwich.
I really don't think it's a sandwich.
But what would it be then?
It's a hot.
It's just a hot dog.
like
It's a
that's
hot
the
dog.
end of it. Is a hamburger
There's-
a sandwich too? I
Yes,
guess.
yes.
Totally.
Well, I guess that makes more sense. Maybe it's the vertical versus horizontal.
sub a sandwich?
And the way you eat
A
it.
Subway sandwich, yeah.
But a taco is not a sandwich.
It's
And
not
that's
used. They
kind
don't
of
use
the same
bread
thing
though.
as or a pita is a pita sandwich. See, there you're getting really close.
well, I feel
Got
like
it,
the
yeah.
reason why they
Pitas,
have
yeah.
they
Those
have
pita
names
pockets.
for
Yeah,
it.
totally.
They're different names for it. Like a hot dog is a hot dog because it's called a hot dog. A sandwich is a sandwich because it's a sandwich.
Yeah.
Isn't that how it works?
But what if you put? So if your hot dog is sliced in half and you put it on two pieces of bread,
Oh my God,
instead
that
of a
sounds.
bun, is that a sandwich?
Oh, I've done that many times.
That's what we had to eat when we were kids. Cause it's
I
Right.
used to do it all the time.
You
Oh,
ran
yeah?
out of hot.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't have hot dog bun, so you put it on bread, or you take a half piece of bread and fold it over and
See, now that's a hot dog sandwich.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A hot dog is not
Telling
a
you,
sandwich.
man.
Well,
So
that's a
I
good-
don't know. That might not be that unpopular opinion,
I
but
think
it's
that is
my opinion.
I
It's
think
a
it is
sandwich.
unpopular.
I think
It's at least a controversial opinion.
I
Exactly.
think we're batting 1,000 on unpopular opinions.
Yeah, we
Pretty
crushed
good.
it today.
You guys
Tim, thanks for being
Thanks
here,
for
man.
having me,
Really
man.
appreciate
Appreciate
it. This
it.
is a
Yeah,
lot
this
of
is
fun.
a
and
lot of
some
fun.
Great
absolutely,
insight.
man. It's a good
Thanks,
time.
Everybody, all musicians and artists coming up trying to do their thing, heed Tim's words. He had a lot of experience,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we're just stoked that you were on here to kind of give some insight. And make sure you follow us on all the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Bottom of the Bill, also Side Hustle the band, Instagram, Facebook, and all that stuff, Twitter, all that stuff. So, yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
My shows are jaxlive.com, JXLIVE.
Yes.
Didn't even ask if you want to plug
I'm sorry. I
anything.
asked him earlier. He didn't want to plug anything, so I just figured-
Jackslive.com.
Yeah, that's the name of the website.
Okay.
That has every show that I'm involved
Who's
in.
playing
There you go.
Jackrabbits this weekend?
I don't know. I really don't. I can't remember.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, adios, muchachos.
See ya.